And we are going free. If you all can hear me, that is. I hope that is the case. Let me know as soon as you do so that I don't have to scramble around in here looking for the problem. I see Jason Allen is here. Glad to be around for this. Thanks. Well, it's great to see you. Olivia is here. I said hello to Anne E. Great to see you in the chat. Coconut is here. Heidi, Marion, Sandroffin, hello to you. Bone Canoe, hello. I'm having a fabulous day. Every day that I can serve White Wellbeing is a fabulous day. I said hello to Johnny Side. He's not going to be able to make it because he's got to be at work early in the morning. As long as he isn't watching sports ball, which is what's, I believe, the first Sunday of the NFL season is taking place today. So I hope you all are happily skipping the stupidity that is the circus and bread that the regime throws at us so that we will remain placid and dumb and worshiping individuals that we should not be worshiping. Let's see. Sonia says hello. Great to see you. Machiavellius is here. Chad is here. Zindroffin says you can hear me. Yonash, hello to you. Elaine is here. Sabatino, great to see you. Loud and clear, Marion says. Stop White Flight, hello to you. Kegs is here. Elemental Metal, that's a great name. How are you all doing? Jilly Storm is here. The great Jilly Storm, the creator of Ethno's State of Mind, far superior to the argument of an ethno state. You'll be able to pull off ethno's state of mind with all of your friends, family, and strangers long before you'll be able to pull off an ethno state in a conversation. Let's see. Cortland is here. Great to see you. Let me say hello. We are all over the place, as always, broadcasting. So I will first say hello to everyone who is here live. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for the comments on my clothing. The last time I wore this tie, I didn't get a chance to wear it very long on the air because I was wearing it on PWR last week, on which Sticks, Hex, and Hammer 666 appeared. And perhaps this is still the case. You all can bring me up to date. But he used to do these streams with a leather jacket and no shirt, and it apparently worked very well for him. He has a colossal fan base, subscriber base, and of course there are other reasons. But we decided to make him feel comfortable. The audience did, PWR. So they voted, and I disappeared briefly and came back shirtless and in a leather jacket. That won't be happening today. I will remain in the tie. There's Seaver, the great Seaver Hamlin, one of our moderators. Great to see you. Just in time so that we can keep an eye and make sure that the chat is healthy and free of the anti-whites who like to worm their way in. White Student is here. Great to see you. Great tweets from White Student. You should follow him if you are not. Ladies and gentlemen, great contributor to the cause of White Wellbeing. See, Rick Sullivan is here. Sifu is here. The great Iron Will. Isn't that a fantastic name? Is here. Raymond is here. I saw as I'm sliding through the chat. We are all over the place. So hello to everyone who is live, and hello to everyone who watches us in replay. And quick hello to people watching us over on Periscope right now. Hello to you. Twitch, VK, Facebook. Hello to everyone watching us on D Live, of course, all over YouTube, Mixer, and we will, if you all will bear with me, set up Entropy, and we will be over there as well in just a moment so that you all can jump on over to Entropy. Let's see here. And now, if you click on the Entropy link, you should be able to land on the Entropy page. There you can watch the stream As you know, ask questions. Tag me, please. I can also see you all, those who are watching on Gardening with NWG. Let's see. Outrageously Inoffensive is here. Says, hearing me loud and clear. Great to see you. Amor is here. Great to see you. Rooster, hello to you. Simon is here. Let's see who else we have. Watch Rider, great to see you. So many good folks. Patricia is here. Great to see you. Ian. Outrageously Inoffensive asks, does VK stand for Viking Kitchen? That's a good question. If somebody has the answer to that, perhaps they can supply it. I'm afraid I do not. Iron Will saying over on Gardening with NWG, Jason like a politician. I guess I can... I have to get cleaned up quite a bit. In fact, I've worked... Polygon is here. Great to see you over on Gardening with NWG. I have had simultaneously white-collar and blue-collar jobs. So I have had to change attire. And mentally, though, it's such a different thing to go from one set of clothes and how I treat that set to a completely different set of clothes, and how, if you've worked a real job, and by that I mean a blue-collar working class job, then depending upon what you're doing, obviously. I mean, if you're in construction or something, you know that you get dirty and you can just wipe things on your pants. You can just, whatever it is, you get some caulking on your grease or something on you just wipe it right off, whatever it is, and you keep moving. Different environment in the office, of course, different environment certainly when I was working on the Hill, and how you handled your clothing and yourself. So mentally acrobatic, you have to be like the Cirque du Soleil crowd to have both a blue collar and white collar job, holding down those at the same time. So as I say, a big hello to everybody who's watching us on the sundry streams to which this Going Free is headed out, is being broadcast. So let's see. Looks like we already have a super chat, quick on the trigger. Pamela, $1.99. Didn't write any verbiage, but the $1.99 speaking a lot to the anti-whites who want nothing more than to silence us. I don't know if you all saw. It looks like JC wrote, we love you, Jason. Well, I love you all back. Thank you very much. We are a big and growing family. We are going to make a people out of this race, and we will be the people who pass through that bottleneck and come out the other side, a better, stronger, smarter people, and able to reclaim all that is ours, our destiny, reclaim it from the anti-whites. JK160 is here. Great to see you as well. Lisa P. Great to see you here. So let me, if the computer stays in the state that it's in right now, the one over to my right. By the way, maybe I can, let's see if I can show you all. I wonder how I might be able to do this. Let me see. Okay. No, maybe not there. Maybe here. What I want to do is, I had mentioned, I think it was last week, that as a, I don't know, I guess a way to put it is like a little bonus, a little way for me to say thank you back to everyone who is investing time, investing energy, investing their talents, potentially putting themselves on the line for white well-being. A way for me to say thank you is to share with you all my workstation. I don't have, beyond everything that I'm doing here for white well-being, I'm afraid I don't have a lot to share to say thank you more than the words that I have to share. So I offered, since so many have asked about so many, since some have asked about what does my workstation look like, I decided that, well, I would take a photograph of it and I would share that with those people. So what I will share with everyone, though, is a blurry version of that same photograph. And that'll be kind of a way of saying to everyone, well, this is what you almost get to see, whether you want to see it or not. So let's see if this will work. Okay. Can everybody still hear me, but now see a blurry image on their screen? Is that Column Rock says hello. Time to go free. Absolutely. Great to see you. Joel is here. Great to see you. Hail in return. Misty, hello. Yes. So you can see the blurry. Everybody can see the blur. So what you're looking at is from the other side of the room here, made blurry as all hell, and most of the color taken out of it. And this is my workstation. Now, if you invest your time and effort for White Wellbeing, or you invest your intelligence, your creativity, in some way you are contributing to White Wellbeing. If you invest financially in some way, you can ask me for the version of this picture with all of its color and clarity, and I will happily provide it. It's nothing more than a curiosity, I'm sure, but that is what it is. Brent Dangers says, it looks exactly the way I had imagined it. Eternalism says, crystal clear image. Yes, a bit blurry. Yes. DJ is here. Great to see you. So everybody is seeing my workstation in a bit of a blurry look. So this is while you all are looking this direction. I remember Woes took a photograph once of his workstation. I guess when he had moved or something. And I had never thought about what his workstation looked like when he was doing live streams. But when he shared the image, I was amazed. I suddenly realized, wow, I was curious about what his workstation looked like even before I realized I was curious about it. So perhaps it is something so maybe I will wet some whistles out there, and you all will get to have an opportunity. Anybody who contributes will be able to ask, and I will deliver. Patrick Collins says he can still hear me. Very good. All right. If you all could please tweet, Minds, Gab, Facebook, VK, whatever platforms you're on, Canard, Parler, just grab the URL, place it on any of these platforms, and send it out so that we can get as many people in here as possible. I don't know how long we'll go today, but we're not going to go like last night. I don't know who all was potentially listening to Poseidon, but I think he went 4.5 hours last night on his show. It was fantastic. I had the show going on this computer, and I was working over on this computer over here, and on the cause, and enjoying the entire time. Great show. If you're not a subscriber to the great Sea God himself, then you should make sure that you subscribe, especially since he has a concern over whether or not he will be around on YouTube, or any of us will be around on YouTube in the very near future. So make sure you subscribe to his different accounts. I can assure you that I will remain no matter what. I will keep returning like a zombie from the grave. The anti-whites are not going to stop. This is something that I was discussing with a friend in the cause, and it's a way that you all should I think, at least I suggest, that you approach all of the roadblocks that the anti-whites, all of the attacks that they put in front of you. And that is that I never really had a lot of time to waste, but I used to occasionally, when I had a little bit of time, I would do those mind, the Mensa puzzles. Have you all heard of those? They're just like the books, and they have all different types of puzzles inside, brain game sort of things. And but I gave up on them because I wasn't accomplishing anything. It was just kind of a waste of time. And I decided, though, when the anti-whites are attacking, when they're putting up these roadblocks, when they're censoring off here and there, that I just view these things now as the Mensa puzzles. It's just, okay, how can I get around this one? How can I get around that? And then I do it time and again. So it's like solving puzzle after puzzle after puzzle. Just see it as a game that you're going to win, an ongoing game that you're going to win, and it'll land on you a lot differently than it lands on a great many people. This will help with a lot of this depression that folks feel as a result of things like the censorship. The anti-whites are just playing their side of a pathetic game that we are ultimately going to win. All right, let's see, what do we have over here on gardening? Beer Hall Pooch is here. Says, I'm here. Took me ages to get round the Euro blocks. Colette's meeting was excellent. Fantastic. I've seen some of the photographs. Everyone is beautiful and splendid in those photographs that I saw from Mark's event. I guess it was yesterday. And really happy that that went off as well as it did. And I hope, and perhaps some of you, you can share in the chat exactly what took place during the meeting. I heard the speakers were fantastic. Pierce Taylor says NWG chat is the best. The gardening with NWG chat stinks. Well, I don't know. They seem to be having fun over there at the moment. I see that. Sobisky says UK is blocked, has blocked your main channel. Yes, it has. Most of the European countries, governments have blocked the main channel. So those who are in Europe right now, are you unable to see the stream on No White Guilt channel at all right now? JC says Jason looks great because he's dressed in European clothing. Yes, I am. Sterling Price says Poseidon makes great memes. He absolutely does. Lisa P says I couldn't make the entire Poseidon stream, fell asleep. Well, Poseidon just showing what a man he is. Fumble Bunny super chatting $2. Thank you so much. And writing, thank you, Jason. We cannot lose. No, we're not going to lose. In fact, we are fated to recapture our destiny. We just have to perform the roles that have to be performed. We have to fill these roles and perform the duties, and our destiny is ours. And that is how we have to approach it. There is no maybes. There is no perhapses. There is no if this or that. It is fated. It is in the stars that we are going to recapture our destiny, and we are going to be a far greater people. It is fated that the anti-whites are playing a role that they themselves cannot comprehend. That role is for us. It is to enable us to go to the next level, to become a people far greater than we've ever been, a people that truly is worthy of going to the stars, because we are simply not there yet. We can cobble together to machinery that is the best that the world has ever seen, the most futuristic, beyond the imaginations, the wildest imaginations of the other peoples on planet Earth, and we can touch down our feet on another world. White men, Western kind, walking on another world. We did that. We should take great pride in that. That is not an accomplishment of mankind. That is Western kind's accomplishment. And all of the technology that's being used now by these different countries, even today, to do these things, to have satellites, to go to the moon, to what didn't Israel crash their spacecraft into the moon, for the Chinese to land a spacecraft? It's all our technology. It's all what we build. And more power to these people. If they build things on their own and they do wonderful things on their own, I wish them the best. But that absolutely does not take away from the fact that we should take great pride in all of our accomplishments. Everything that we have done, we should remember, and we should always correct those around us, friends, family, and strangers, when they talk about these things and they want to say that it is humanity's excellence that achieved this. But white race, you're guilty for X, Y, and Z. Forget about it, buddy. Piss on that. No, when we talk about the moon landing, white man. When we talk about flight, white man. When we talk about surgery, white man. We are taking the credit for all of these wonderful things that we are responsible for, because we are writing the story. And that's what we're going to be getting into tonight. It's very important because I've had a couple people over the past couple streams I've gotten into polite disagreement with in the threads. And perhaps I can even pull those up while we are streaming today, while we're going free today, and talk about those disagreements, because fundamentally the disagreements are coming from a place of weakness for these people. They're coming from a place of submission. And those are not going to be the people who win the day. It's not going to be the person who in a discussion feels meek and mealy-mouthed and deferential. I'm not going to be able to provide you. It seems like, and this is the case, unfortunately, with some folks. They come and they say, so you have I heard about this lexicon and I heard about these dialectics. What exactly is this all about? And I share some of these things, and then they go out and they meekly, almost like asking, almost beseeching the anti-whites in their presence, will you please accept this other phrase? Of course they're not going to accept it. You have to be intransigent as hell. You have to be as intransigent as they are. You have to make the field and the conversation one in such that if they are going to have a conversation with you, they are going to have to come over to our field. They are going to have to come over to our precepts. We do not go over to their field. We do not go over to their precepts, because you will always lose. Brilliant people have worked at this for decade after decade, trying to use their languages, their precepts, their concepts to try to outwit them, and they lose every single time with the anti-whites. And then you end up with this people shrugging and we don't know what to do. Well, you don't know what to do because you're not doing the right thing. And it's something that we have to talk about today as well. And it's, in fact, I think I will pull this up because it's important that we address it in the context of going free today and the things that I'm going to share, and that I hope you all then go out and share with those in your circles of influence. Beer Hall Pooch draws my attention to Colette has formed a new movement, Patriotic Alternative. I guess that he announced that during the event. Is that right, Beer Hall Pooch? That Patriotic Alternative was announced at the gathering. Okay, Watch Rider says that yes, indeed, those in Europe are unable to see the stream on No White Guilt. He writes, blocked on main channel using the excuse that a legal complaint has caused it to be blocked. Well, the legal complaint is the government. If you're in the UK, in your case, in the UK, this is not something that the anti-whites at YouTube, they're not reaching out to me and saying, we're stopping your stream from reaching these people. We're stopping your videos. No, these are your governments over there, the anti-whites who run those governments, who are saying, my God, we don't want these concepts of going free reaching the people here, because then the people will go free of what we have brainwashed them with. Beer Hall Pooch says, yes, Mark has announced it at the gathering. Well, that is fantastic news. I look forward to learning much more about that, and to all of the success, a big success, I wish. Strong wins. I hope for nothing but strong wins at your backs as you all endeavor to recapture our destiny over there in the UK. Tree of Wisdom says Scrabble is the whitest game he's ever seen. Yonash says, I can see the stream as long as he changes the location on YouTube to the US, but saw it first on Gardening with NWG. Do not freeze. Super Chat's $1.99. Your thoughts on Slavs and other non-Nordic whites. My thoughts on them? They're amazing white people. It's my thoughts. All white people are absolutely amazing. I happen to have the blood of, in my DNA, it's in my DNA of all the different hues and varieties of the white race. Primarily German, English, and Scandinavian, but Central European, Eastern European, Russian, and even a little Southern European, all mixed in. So my thoughts are that we are all members of Western kind, and this variety of our hair colors, the variety of to some degree of our shapes of our faces, eye color, skin tone, etc., is a blessing to us. It makes us we are the actual diverse people. Every non-white, whether they are anti-white or not, that crosses the border and comes into our countries, or is born in our countries that we create, have created and maintain, every single one detracts from that diversity. They don't add to it. Just think about a collection of crayons. If you have a collection of, I presume everybody knows what crayons are. If we have a collection of crayons, and say we have 64 different colors of crayons in a box, and you keep dumping more and more black and brown crayons into the box, you have less and less diversity. You don't have more diversity. But anti-whites are never good at math or anything. I mean, they can't even figure out what sex they are. Anybody that's having a problem with that is having many other problems as well. Let me make sure that I didn't miss anything. And I want everybody to, if you look down into the description of the video, you'll see that there is a link to No White Guilt alerts on Telegram. If you are on Telegram, I don't know what the proper verbiage is. You all can provide me with that. Please subscribe to it, if that's the proper verbiage. Subscribe. Oh, yeah. Well, perhaps Jim Bowden says, talking about Ebola, our diversity of genetic related diseases, of communicable diseases, etc., that does go up. That's true. That diversity does go through the roof. In fact, I had a physical about a month ago now, and you all will be happy to know, and the anti-whites will absolutely hate, that I am in sterling shape. I could not be healthier than I am. But I was told that the doctor was going to have to test me for a couple of other inoculations that I would have received earlier in life, because these diseases are now becoming rampant in the United States, diseases that we had pretty much eradicated. So she had to make sure that, yeah, you still have a resistance to these diseases. So wonder why they're rampant again. Now, I can't say that they are because of people coming in who have those diseases, because the anti-whites at YouTube will shut us down. But you all can figure it out for yourself. We just had a $10 Canadian dollars from Olivia. Thank you so much. No verbiage, but of course making a big statement to all of the anti-whites up in Canada today with those $10. Thank you very much. So subscribe to or follow, whatever the proper verbiage is, to the Telegram, the No White Guilt alerts on Telegram. It has the same, I use the same photograph for the avatar as I use for the No White Guilt channel on YouTube. And I will be doing my best now to incorporate that platform to send out alerts to you all to let you know what's going on. For example, when there's another wave of censorship and I'm censored from another platform or two and all of my work is set to fire by the anti-whites who like to present themselves as these noble heroes when really they're the wretched scum of the earth. They set fire to all my work and move on. Well, I will let you all know where the new edifice will be located. And then the anti-whites, they can scurry over the hill like the cockroaches they are, have a little snarky celebration, and then suddenly the shadow of the new edifice falls over them again, and they have to cuss and light their torches again. And while they're trying to figure out what sex they are, and what and who they should breed with, I guess for an anti-white, when they're not quite sure whether they should kill it or have sex with it, their thought is they should kill it first. Okay, so I shared the workstation photo with you all. If you want to, and I'll make this clear again, you can ask questions on either YouTube. You can tag me as Gardening with NWG or No White Guilt. I'll be able to see both. So if you have a statement or a question, please ask for clarification when we're talking about the things we're talking about, because there seems to be at times some bit of misunderstanding, and I want to make sure that the information is reaching you all as lucidly as it possibly can, as clearly as it possibly can, for that clarification. And so you can do that. You can also ask questions over on Entropy, specifically in the question widget. You can super chat there as well. Super chatting on YouTube, which is Google, is 33%. Entropy is 15%. Cash or Ko-fi is, if you super chat on Ko-fi down in the description, that's also at 15%. And then I think it is Cash App and the Familiar Alternative, which is down in the description as well, both at 4%. So if you decide to super chat, your statements or questions will absolutely be read. In fact, I think we had let me just refresh the page. I think JT Smith had asked if his final super chat had come in over on Ko-fi last time. And I don't know if we read it or not, but I'll read it again. This is from the last going free, and it was $3. JT Smith, thank you so very much. And writing, hail Jason NWG. Hail in return. Great member of our community. Glad to have you with us, and thank you so much for the support you give in all the ways that you give to the cause of white well-being. Snow Duchess super chatting over on Cash App. Thank you so very much for that kind super chat. $10. And writing for no murdering whites. Thank you so much indeed. We are opposed to the murdering of anyone. We are opposed to all illegality. Takhara is here. Great to see you. Mark, Hugo is here. DJ, Pepe, Sonia, Rick is here. Casual Cruising is here and writing, talking about trying to pick up the stream over on No White Guilt, saying the very same complaint occurs for Swedes without a VPN. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are uncomfortable with a VPN, and thank you very much for that intel, we need to know and be sharing this information, because we have to be a live community. We have to be a participatory community. You're not going to be able to sit back and just drink beer and hang out. If that's what you want to do, then I'm not going to run you off. But that's not what we need. We need participants. Now, your level of participation can vary based on your circumstance. It may mean that you are participating by trying to convert your brother, bring him to white well-being. It may mean that you can invest money. It may mean many different things, that you can write songs. whatever it is, we need you to participate. And part of that is doing things like sharing with the community what works and what doesn't work. We're not going to be able, this is going to be the new paradigm, part of this whole new paradigm that is going to defeat the anti-whites, that is defeating the anti-whites, as we see, as we were going to talk about, we continue to defeat them. So we're going to need that kind of information. And as far as it comes, as relative rather to a VPN, if you are uncomfortable with a VPN, you need to get comfortable. There are many professional companies, VPN companies, that are safer and more legitimate, certainly than Google is. And I provide a link on my banner on my page, No White Guilt, and I think it's to a regime's newspaper or magazine or something where they're reviewing a dozen or so VPNs. There are others out there. Go to whatever you think is a legitimate source for the information on VPNs. It's a virtual private network. Essentially, the way it works, if this is unfamiliar to you, is that when you are watching something on the internet or surfing the internet, then your view of the internet is provided you by way of, you just think of it as a telescope. It's a server somewhere. And that server is close to where you live. In most cases, it's not far from where you live. So when you are not on a VPN, if the anti-whites want to track you down, they can track you down to, say, like your city. They can find the city that you're in by looking the reverse direction through the telescope. If you have a VPN, what you're doing then is you're looking through your telescope, if you will, to another server in another land. For example, if you're in the UK, maybe in the United States, and then from that server, you're seeing the internet. This enables you to circumvent the efforts by anti-whites to control what you see, hear, and think. It undermines their ability to whatever degree to track down from server to server to find out the city you're in or something. So the more, as we move forward, it's going to become increasingly important to have a VPN to the point of necessity. I mean, you just won't be able, certainly there are going to be countries in the West where if you even look, it'll be like communist China. If you even look at something, you'll have a knock on your door within the hour from the authorities. It will become that way in some places before we recapture our destiny, because that is how hysterical and tyrannical the anti-whites are. That is how deeply they know that any information that contradicts or undermines the anti-white narrative undermines their ability to control what you think, which undermines their ability to control what you do, your actions, etc. And they have to stop that. They don't debate because of that. They'll talk about wanting a conversation. They don't want a conversation because they know if you hear, and reality is that what's going on in the actual world is easily shared and easily comports with what we share here in Going Free. Whereas what they talk about is always contradicted by reality. Even a fool can see that that is the case. So you're going to need a VPN in the future. You might as well go ahead and get comfortable with using one now. Do not use a free one. I know there are a lot of free ones out there, and maybe some people are making some recommendations even right now about free VPNs. That to me is suspicious. You're not going to spend a huge sum of money. It's worth it for your security. It's worth it for your ability to see streams that anti-whites don't want you to see. So go ahead and get comfortable with a VPN. We just had a super chat come in from Zero Talon over on the Familiar Alternative, which, like I said, you can find down in the description, ladies and gentlemen. Writing, as super chatting with $2. Thank you very much. Writing, did you get my last 2 donations? If you read my last one asking, then I must not be subscribed to one of the shows. Well, okay, I see from 3 days ago. Yes, I did, as a matter of fact. It came in right at the end, if I recall. of the show on Thursday. You wrote it was a $2 super chat, and again, thank you very much for that. I heard you ask if any super chats were missed, and I wondered if you got another $2 at the end of last night's stream. You're the $2 super chatter, my friend. You also super chatted the day before on the Going Free, $2, and writing, thank you for the stream. Powerful message as always. So thank you, Zero Talon, for your investments and your good words. Teddy Net News super chatted, well, that's peculiar. It popped up before Zero Talons. It wasn't there before. Super chatting $5. Thanks very much for that, Teddy. And thank you for always being around. You've become a staple. It's de rigueur to have Teddy Net News with us. So thank you so much. Right. Hi, Jason. How are you? I am splendid. Thank you for asking. Every day that I can serve White Wellbeing is a fantastic day. It puts me in the best mood to work for our people. It will put you all in the best mood. Nothing helps get me out of bed quicker. Nothing helps to put an extra step into my day, going from point A to point B, than thinking about the good that I can do for our people, thinking about the harm that is being inflicted. This video that I retweeted today from the white student, or I'm not quite sure what he's called on Twitter, where it's a couple of anti-white non-whites attacking what definitely appears to be a white female and beating the hell out of her. Rest assured that that is going to drive me to extremes over the next couple days to do more work than I would have done for White Wellbeing, than I would have been able to do. You can always do more than you think you can. And we talked about using anger and wetting anger with your love for our people, using that as motivation. That is the most powerful motivator there is, ladies and gentlemen. I use it all the time. That's why the anti-whites want to turn you away from it. That's why they want to say, oh, you're just angry. While their people froth like, rabid animals in a cage with rage, and they say, well, their rage is legitimate, it's righteous, it's just. But if you get angry, then it's for some pathological reason. No, of course, that's called psychological warfare. Of course, they're going to tell you that. And you should not have any shame in saying the exact same to them. You are crazy, anti-white, for getting upset and being angry. You have an anger management problem. You need to see a therapist for this. But when we get angry, it's perfectly legitimate because of the things that you all are doing to us. There's no shame in saying that. DJ in the UK says, great words, Jason. Not sure what I said, but thank you for that. I thought I saw, and I did. The great Poseidon is here. He's unstoppable. My good brother. Great to see you, brother. Great to have you with us. All right. Let's keep this rolling. I want to stay in touch with all of you all. We need to become like this giant mess. What is it called in medicine? A plexus. We need to be like this plexus of nerves that is all interconnected and all feeding information, bioelectrical information from one side to the other, like a giant brain reaching out, gathering information, executing plans, dropping leaflets like we celebrated this past Wednesday. Fabulously done. A big salute and a heartfelt thank you to all of those, or that individual or groups who participated in that leaflet drop. I hope to see a lot more, and always legally done. If it's going to be done, always legally done, only in the areas where it's legal to do it. And or perhaps you are someone who just happens to find where it has been done and you maybe get photos of it. But make sure, though, if you do this sort of thing and it's legally done, don't assume automatically that I'm going to know that it happened, because I didn't know until I was alerted to the fact that by Samantha Fox, that in fact it was reported on by Red Ice, who actually didn't even mention me or my website or my work or anything. They just showed the flyer. It said no white guilt, and then the top website, nowhiteguilt.org. And so that's the only reason I found out about it. So if you do something like this, or you know someone that has something like this that has been done, it's been picked up on the news or whatever, gather that info and share that info on the internet. Make sure that it somehow reaches me so that I can salute you all, and without giving your identities away, because of all of the reasons I articulated on Wednesday. Outrageously Inoffensive says, hell yeah, we get angry when innocent people are attacked. How many times well said, how many times have you all seen these incidents in person as well as on videos, where you see this group of non-whites attacking a white individual? It's regular, and it's getting worse. It's skyrocketing. The regime's media, though, is not talking about it. It is contradictory to the anti-white narrative, and therefore it's buried underfoot. This is the main purpose and thrust of the Going Free stream today, is to talk about the anti-white narrative, how folks understand the world, and therefore how you understand them and interact with them in that context. So it happens all the time, and it should drive you to extremes. You should be able to take the rage that you feel from that, wed that to the love for our people, and then get busy doing things for white well-being, whatever that might be. You were afraid of dropping leaflets or putting leaflets in a book. You were afraid of posting online. You were afraid of starting a channel. You were afraid of starting a blog, whatever it might be. You were afraid of writing a letter to the editor. Sit right down and get to work on it. Use that energy to make it happen. Hugo, should be chatting $5. Thank you so much. Keep up the great work, brother. Anti-whites will fall. They will indeed fall. We are going to recapture our destiny, and there's nothing they can do to stop us. I want to thank Lily, Erwache, Zed Des, and Starshine for the great work that they have been doing on the time stamping. We are rapidly moving forward to catching up with the time stamping on all of these Going Free shows. And once we have the time stamping done, we are going to begin taking pieces out of these sometimes protracted shows or prolonged shows, and making them available on my channels, all of the platforms that I'm on, so that you all can then share them, anything from 30 seconds to 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it might be, when I'm addressing a subject and on that subject for that period of time, taking that information, turning it into a powerful pill for this curative contagion that you then can say to your circles of influence, hey, I have this great video. It's only 6 minutes long. Have a look. And folks will end up having a look, rather than saying, I've got this 3.5 hour stream that was really fantastic. Look around through the thing for information that might be useful to you. You will know the people in your circles of influence who are, let's say they're stuck on immigration. And I said something about immigration in one of the streams, and now that's been clipped out. It's 8 minutes long. It's its own video and available. You can then say, this video would be perfect for this person. You can then grab that link and share that link with that person. It is going to be of immense value. You can only imagine the amount of clips that we're going to be able to pull out of these Going Free streams that will be able to help folks go free with pinpoint accuracy. Something that is not being done in the white positive sphere yet, at least to any substantial degree. We are going to be doing it here and making a huge change in the way we reach out to our people. It's not going to be this normal, should we approach people with this topic or that topic or not? No, everybody's different. Everybody has different needs. Everybody is in different places. You are going to know the folks that you are speaking to, in some cases. And in those cases, you're going to know to whatever degree what they need to hear. And that information should be available to you so that you can provide it to them. We're working hard on that. And your super chats help to pay for that sort of thing. So this is very important. Having said that, now I want to ask any of you out there, if you are adept at it's not very hard at all, but if you are already knowledgeable about how to download a video, how to pull out a portion of a video, make it into its own video, and then provide me the download from any of these numerous sources for transferring files so that I can grab it and put it up online. If you are skilled at that, you can do it rapidly, and you'll have the time to go through these notes, these time stamping for each video. Reach out to me. As of right now, the emails that are coming through my website are only working about maybe 25% of the time. People are getting a lot of error messages, and it's getting worse. So you could try reaching out to me on Telegram. You could try reaching out to me on Twitter. I'm available there as well. Look down into my list of platforms. Facebook, you can try reaching out to me there as well. Start your conversation with this subject so that I know why you're reaching out to me, and we can talk. I'll be doing, obviously, I guess, looking at your offer, what your skill set is, and probably we'll have a few people work on this for me, since there's quite a bit of information, and we want to be able to gather this together as quickly as possible and provide it to folks so that we can really make a big difference in a rapid way. You all can speak to this right now. You can say it in the chats that you're on, that for you, it was the information of X, Y, or Z that did it. But for someone else, it was a different piece of information. That was that first moment for you. That is what we have to be able to provide. Let's stop this generalized approach of, do we talk about this other group of people or not? Forget about all that. Let's find out what people's needs are, and let's speak to those needs. And to that end, when people do things like flyer drops, and we talked about the making the flyers very simple, and we will be providing templates as the website is rebuilt for flyers, leaflets to be provided. We should, in some cases, especially where there is a specific issue for people in a particular town or what have you, that is really undermining their well-being. Speak to that. Say something like fisheries or fishing zones are being closed because the government is fine with protecting something that doesn't need to be protected. We want to protect all wildlife and keep our environment clean and safe. But it's one of these overreaching things, and they're doing it because it's anti-white. We all know that in this sphere. We know that they're doing it because it's anti-white. They're not doing it for the guppy darter, whatever it is. When the actual science says that there's nothing wrong with the numbers of this particular type of fish or organism or what have you. But all of the fishermen happen to be white people. When that's harming them, then your leaflet can say no white guilt, and then something like they're shutting down the fishing zones because it harms white people, and that's it. Simple. It speaks to what's happening to them. And if it's somebody in a town where it's mostly fishing, people are either going to be the fishermen themselves, they're going to be related to the fishermen, their friends are going to be the fishermen. It will speak to people's needs. That's how we have to work from now on if we're going to make the kind of gains that we plan to and will make. So you can be a part of that, or you can sit on the sidelines and then maybe go watch some other content producer for your jollies. So we also want to give a big thank you to my video highlight specialist, HB2014 on Twitter. Is it underscore HB 2014 or HB underscore 2014? Maybe we can get that information, but you should be following him if you're not. He should have 5 times the amount of followers on Twitter. Every video that he makes should be shared hundreds of times. He's pulling out these videos from mostly things that I'm saying, but also Jared George, people who appear on our shows, some other shows every now and again as well. Let's make sure to magnify this guy's efforts. He's doing a fantastic job. Seaver Hamlin says it's underscore HB 2014. Thank you so much for that information. So a big salute to HB for the hard work that he's doing. I want to give a big salute also to Phoenix Fire, my website and marketing engineer of No White Guilt Collectibles. She's doing a huge amount of work for the cause, and we want to acknowledge her for all that she's doing. She just did some work and made some changes to the store last night. So thank you very much for your hard work. I want to mention to you all, if you all produce any sort of well-being art, we've had some music played, and I've done, and we've videography as well. You know, talking about Phoenix Fire, the Great Poseidon has as well produced some videos with some of my orations, magnificently done. So far we only have well-being music and well-being videography that I've been able to, pardon me, that I've been able to share as premieres on my channel and put into the well-being community folder. If you're out there, if you sculpt, if you paint, if you draw, we might be able to work together. I'm not saying that everything that anybody creates for White Wellbeing, I'm going to automatically put up on my channel. But if you put something up that I think will work and will work with the rest of the theme that is in service to White Wellbeing and in that playlist, then maybe we can work together. I will be able to share your work. Say you've done a collection of 10 drawings for White Wellbeing. It can be anything. It can be anything. It can be you serve White Wellbeing and you like to draw roses. You like to draw daisies. You like to draw daylilies, and they're beautiful. You have 10 drawings of daylilies. Reach out to me, and we can do a premiere. I can maybe put music in the background, and it can slowly fade from one lily to the next, and we can bring folks in and continue to build this community. Reach out to me. We might be able to work together. I want to be doing these things, and because of the importance that it yields. And before we talk about the, I'm not going to actually say the words. Where is it? Where do I have it? Oh, it's over here. The movie by Jonathan Garcia titled Why Don't We, I'm going to use the word mortal instead of the word that he uses, because the anti-whites at YouTube are such unscrupulous dirtbags, muppets, that if I say that phrase, or if I say the title of that movie, they will strike my channel for threats, for violence, for even though I'm talking about what this anti-white, non-white named his movie, even though I'm talking about that. In fact, I was looking at potentially reading what the people in the movie, the things that they said, because it was extremely hateful, extremely anti-white, all violent. If I were to read one of those, my channel would be taken down for threats of violence. And yes, it is absurd. Yes, it is unfair. That's how the anti-whites work. And just remember, sorry is not going to be good enough. When we recapture our destiny, sorry won't be good enough. So let's see. But before we get into that, and specifically, we're going to be talking about it in relation to the WASPs. How many of you have heard of the WASPs? And I'm not talking about a particular faction or group of white people. If I'm not talking about that, what have you all heard of that? Okay, let's see. A couple of people here saying that they support the use of VPNs. Absolutely. Zendrafen, when you were on Happy Homelands last, someone mentioned Frank Raymond. I sent you the stream Red Ice did with him. Very interesting videos. Well, I'll have to check it out. Thank you for the intel. Dark Omens says, I found you via YouTube. It told me of your channel, and I listened to what you had to say and fell in love with your thoughts of the way of the world. Well, thank you so much, Dark Omen. I appreciate that. We are here in Going Free. We are all about loving our people, Western kind, celebrating who and what we are. And we welcome everyone of every race, every sexual orientation to support white well-being. And we fit none of the stereotypes. We're not in the anti-white narrative. So we are something different. We are writing our own story. Our book, the pages are clean on in our book for us to write that story in. Pamela, super chatting $1.99, writing, I know what sex I am. It's grandma. Well, thank you very much. And thank you for being a grandmother. I'm sure that you raised beautiful, wonderful children, and that you have led them in the right direction to serve white well-being, and that your grandchildren are going to be serving white well-being as well as your great-grandchildren. I don't know if I mentioned Hugo's $1 super chat, but I will. Thank you very much for that, Hugo. And thank you for being here. Didn't write anything, but thank you very much. What else do we have here? Any statements from anybody else? And then what I want to do is I want to read a couple of the really positive things that we've gathered from folks, messages that have been sent, to share a couple of them with you all so that you all can be invigorated as I am invigorated by reading these things. Watching a channel called No White Guilt would definitely be a 50 points on the social credit score. Yeah, I guess that you're talking about like the Chinese social credit score. Yes, indeed. You would be in the significant hot water. Maiden Deutschland DE says many of the VPNs are owned by them, but definitely agree on paid over free. I use CyberGhost is what she writes. I use a VPN, but I'm not going to direct you all toward the one that I use because I simply can't vouch for it. And I also don't know that it's the best. And I also don't want to be in a scenario where I tell you all to go someplace and I'm making money off of the place I told you all to go. That is a conflict of interest. That won't happen here. Watchrider over on Gardening with NWG says, if we had a media group to form, it would be beneficial via folks like yourself, art, writing, animation, music, etc. Well, and speaking to that, thank you very much, Watchrider. If you are unaware, ladies and gentlemen, I produced a comedy book. How often do you hear about that happening in the white positive sphere? It's a comedy novella. I actually have a poster of it on the wall, and you can find the video, I think, on Gardening with NWG as well as No White Guilt, that introduces the novella. You can find the link in the descriptions everywhere. And as I say, it's a little novella. You can get it in print. You can also get it in digital form. And you can now get it on nowhiteguiltcollectibles.com. And I will sign it for you if you so desire. And JC says, it is better to be for anything than against something. We are for beauty and truth. We are for the survival of the white race on earth. Thank you for all that you do. Amen, JC. Thank you very much. JC stalling. All right, let's see what else we have. Casual Cruising super chatted over on the Familiar Alternative, $5. Did you know that there's a lot of animal rights activists coming to the conclusion that in order to lessen the cruelty found in the meat and big pharma industry, keeping whites alive becomes absolutely paramount. Do you have a personal vision on it? I didn't know that was, they're actually saying that we need white people to prevent animal cruelty, because that's fantastic. They're going to be maturing sociopolitically rapidly, because the anti-whites are not going to tolerate that one bit. According to the anti-white narrative, reality is immaterial. That's what we're talking about today when it comes to the anti-whites and their narrative. Reality is immaterial. It's inapplicable. And that's why, that's something fundamental that you have to understand when you're having your discussions, arguments, or what have you with them, is that reality is immaterial to them. All that matters is their anti-white narrative. We also have Zero Talon super chatting over on the familiar alternative again, $2. Thank you so much, my kind friend. Excellent. Glad everything is working as intended. Next time I get a promotion, I will be able to do more than $2. My friend, $2 is a massive sum, and I appreciate every penny as though it were 1,000 times the sum that you invested. I know what it's like to work your ass off for $1, and then to have, the opportunity. Is this going to go to my electricity? Is this going to go to, I'll tell you all right now, there was a period where I had to sell my microwave to get food years ago. So I know what it's like. So don't ever think that your investment, whether it's time, please never do this with no white guilt. Never think that an investment of your time, an investment of your money is too little. It is never too little. It is a monumental statement to make. And that doesn't take anything away from those who are able to give more. I mean, the multimillionaire who buys his the Deca millionaire who buys his wife a $100,000 ring hasn't done nearly as much as the blue-collar laborer who earns $35,000 a year and spends $1,000 on his wife's ring. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, you might need to study math again. Jilly Storm writing irony. Heidi writes, been there too. Yeah, well, I guess it was irony, but the upside to that, when I had to sell the microwave to get food, was that the subsequent month at the job that I had, I shattered a record for that employer that had been, that business had been in business for decades. I shattered a previous record, and the owner, being a hell of an interesting character, decided that he was going to cancel the check for me, zero it out, and pay me in cash in front of all the other employees. So I went right out the next month and bought a brand new microwave, nicer than the one I had to sell. Tree of Wisdom says European governments blocking you are like drug abusers refusing help. Also, did you really need a doctor to know you're healthy? You have a great resistance to meme pathogens. Thanks so much. Well, no, I absolutely have all of my exams, proper exams, all of the proper blood work, dental visits, eye visits, everything on schedule all the time. And I advise you all to do the same. Don't take your health for granted. We can also talk about, as soon as I get through some of this, talk about some of the things that you all are seeing going around, and news or whatever else you might see, just depending on time. Let me read some of these. I want to lift your spirits. I want you all to get as excited about going free as I am, as excited about what we are doing for white well-being as I am. I want you all to really grasp that there's going to come a day when we look back on these months, these weeks, these days, these years, when we look back and we say, that was when it all started. That was when things were really getting excited. That was when the train, you see these old steam trains, and you see the steam begins to billow from the stack and from the sides of the train and up coming from underneath of the train, and the wheels spin and spin, and the train is barely moving. Nothing at first, no movement at first. A big roar, the whistle goes, the wheels spin, and they grab a little bit more with the friction. And then the weight of that giant machine and all of its cargo begins to move. And once that momentum gets started, nothing in all hell can arrest it. Anything that gets in its way at that point is obliterated. That will be what we look back on. We will be able to say to our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren, and our children and grandchildren will be able to tell our 4 times grandchildren that we were there when it started. We weren't just there when the crowds were hundreds of thousands that showed up for our rallies. We were there when everywhere we turned, the anti-whites were silencing us. We were there when it was a threat every day, when we sat at our computers in our homes and we had to look out the window for fear that the anti-whites were watching from some government headquarters or from some anti-white, lavishly funded headquarters with some deceptive name, and they were watching and they were going to find out who we were, and they were going to assassinate our reputations, that we were going to be hauled before anti-white tribunals and suffer great penalties or firing or expulsion, these black marks on our history, on our records, that there was going to be social lynching that happened everywhere. We were there and we were brave enough. That will be the story that we will be able to share, and they will look up to us from their knees on the floor around us, and they will say, Grandma, Grandpa, tell us that story again. Tell us what it was like in the beginning, when the resistance really got going, when we started from nothing to where we are today and recapturing our destiny. Those will be the shining eyes that will look up at you. And I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, there'll be tears coming out of mine. You all are going to be able to say that. This writer writes to me and says, Jason, the absolute game changer for me was the first time I heard the term white erasure in a Going Free stream. It was as if a million jumbled up puzzle pieces suddenly flew together, revealing the previously indescribable phenomenon that I had witnessed in real time over my 50 years of life. And similarly, the term white noir. The other day, I was walking with a dear friend of mine, a usually gregarious and boisterous soul with whom I can discuss the anti-white reality. I was relating to him the comment from a community member you had shared in your streams, quote, suicide is the ultimate white flight, close quote. My friend stopped dead in his tracks and stared at me soberly, finally saying, quote, that's exactly what it is. And that was from C. We are changing lives, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be not giving away the names. I haven't asked these people for permission, so I will just be saying the first letter of their names as I read 2 more of these statements. Jason, I've finished Born Guilty, and now I was actually moved to triumphant tears when I read through the final confrontation you had with Riddick and how you dealt with him. I was so invested in your story. It really is amazing what you went through and your strength of conviction. It got my adrenaline pumping. I will be reading this book again. I look forward to enjoying more of your content. The occasional live streams, time differences make it a bit difficult, and also getting through Going Free and the many other books that are piling up on my list. I signed up for a regular investment through your website a while ago so I can offer some financial support to aid your position on the front line in the fight for white well-being. Bye for now, brother. S. Thank you. my deepest gratitude to you, both of you, for these kind words, for this monthly investments that you are making, in the work that I am doing, being here on the front line, exposed to the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, as Shakespeare is wont to write. It's very meaningful. It's very meaningful that you say that you were moved to triumphant tears reading about my struggle in junior high school. Folks, you can find that story in a book called Crucible, which is inside of Born Guilty, the book that I have right here, and the links are in the subscription. I can assure you, if you are in any way, if you were not raised by dwarves under a mountain somewhere, you will have lived the same experience that I share in Crucible. And it will have a great meaning for you, as it has had for a great many people and a great many people to come. I've said about Born Guilty, we haven't really begun to sell this book yet. We as a community are going to sell this book to millions of our people, and they are going to come to White Wellbeing as a consequence of it. They are going to see their stories in Crucible. They're going to see the lives that they led, the fear that they felt, the nightmares that they had. They are going to experience that as we all experienced it. And the only difference will be, for most cases, will be that I stubbornly decided to fight against it. Foolishly, perhaps, in many ways, but stubbornly decided to fight against it. And you will see that you take great pride and energy and encouragement from the outcome. Jason, this is the last one, then we're going to get on to the WASPs. And I didn't notice if anybody had knew what the WASPs were. Again, I'm not talking about a particular group of white people. Teddy Net News over on Gardening with NWG, and I am watching you all over there on this other screen, by the way. I see Teddy Net News writes, I bought your other 2 books already. I will buy your 3rd book too. Well, thank you so much. The 3rd book, It's a Comedy, Damn It, is going to give you a laugh. It's wild. It's a wild ride. And if you have read the book, if you are in the chat already, please share that you read it and what your thoughts were. Folks will want to know. They will be interested. I had one friend who read it while he was on plane, heading to wherever, and he said in the midst of reading it, he wondered if the oxygen level had dropped in the plane, and he was hallucinating. So if that is, he meant it in a positive way. So if that is any testament that might help you decide whether or not you would like to own that book. And as I say, it's also available in electronic form. Jason, I have wanted to reach out to you for a while now. I am reading Born Guilty and Going Free. While I am not an emotional person, I find that when I listen to your videos or read your words, I cannot control myself. I have only been able to read a few pages of Born Guilty before weeping. I feel the connection to your stories and life experiences. Having been raised in an anti-white environment, I am finding it difficult to go free and follow the path of white well-being. I have only been following you for 6 months, but you have changed how I look at life, and I thank you for that. May the gods bless everything you do, my brother. And that is from M. I thank you very much, M. That is very meaningful to me. Those were kind and generous words. And you all touch me. And I hope that those moments, for me especially in junior high school that I share in Crucible, those moments when I was utterly alone, when I was abandoned by all of my friends, they feared the smear that the anti-whites are wont to control us with. They feared the smear. They feared the physical violence, the beatdowns. The females hated me for not adhering to and bending my knee to anti-whiteism, the fashionable things to think. They had already, even at that young age, 11 years of age, knew my type so well. They knew who and what I was, as though I had had this history of monstrous behavior, a lifetime of monstrous behavior, rather than being a white child saying, wait a second, this harms my people. Why are we doing this? Rather than it being that, it was that, according to that anti-white narrative, I was a monster. And that should tell you everything you need to know. That is why, ladies and gentlemen, that is why when I decided to look for a book cover and design a book cover, I wanted the truth to be there. There were people who argued against this cover because they said it's too radical. It's too in your face. No, God damn it. It is the truth. The moment that white baby comes into the world, this is what he or she is. That is why we had this Minotaur of Rebellion take my oration about the little white girl on the train and all of those other white children out there who are hating themselves because they hate their people and are doing everything they can to escape it, escape our people. This is the reason why. Because the moment they're born, they're branded with all of this and more. And this is what we're going to put an end to. This branding iron is what we are going to stand between. We're going to stand between this baby and the bastard that wields that thing. And if we have our way, which we will, we'll make that anti-white eat it. So let me take a quick look at Entropy and see if we have any super chats over there so that nobody is being missed. Looks like we have some questions over there. Simon, great. Simon is here, and I will be sure to get to those questions as we move through this. Okay, these are all. Well, let me see if I've gotten all of these. There's Hugo, Fumble Bunny. Do not freeze. There's Olivia's, Hugo's, Pamela's, and Hugo's on Super Chats on YouTube. We have a Super Chat from Heidi over on Entropy, $25. Thank you very much, my dear friend Heidi. Any thoughts on what we've been hearing on the food issues, bugs, no red meat, and how cows are affecting the planet, etc., blah, blah, blah. The future of our sustenance. Well, we'll see. We'll see about that super chat's not going anywhere. I will do my best to speak to that before we're done here. I want to jump into the topics we have lined up. Machiavellia sucks. Super chats on YouTube, $1.99. Writing, Jay's always felt being anti-white in their interest. Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, thank you kindly for the super chat. And I'm sure other folks will be able to figure out the point you're trying to make. Watching and listening, super chatting $10 on YouTube. No white guilt. I enjoy your work. It makes me less depressed every day. My family is worried that my interest in white well-being is driving me away from my Christian faith. I don't think it does. It doesn't drive you away from your Christian faith whatsoever. No, their interpretation of Christianity is wrong, and that's what you need to tell them. If they look at Christianity and they think that caring about the well-being of white people, if they look at Christianity and they think that putting an end to the infliction of harm on Western kind and Western civilization is at odds with Christianity, they are in the wrong. They have some diseased version of Christianity in their head, and the question to them is, where did you get such a notion? Where did you get such a diseased notion of Christianity that you think saving Western kind from the harm that's being inflicted on it and Western civilization from being destroyed by anti-rights is somehow anti-Christian? Demand of them those answers, because you know damn well and good that they wouldn't think that trying to put a stop to the things built by Asians or Asian people and harm being brought to Asian people, that they would not see that as anti-Christian. So demand that they answer that question. Thank you very much for that super chat. And that right there is a reason why we're going to start having live calls on these shows in the very near future, because we're going to be able to hash these things out. There are other people out there in Christian families that are struggling with the same things. The cultural oncologist super chatting over here on Entropy. Thank you very much. $5. Writing, hey, NWG, found you through Poseidon, the great Poseidon. I decided to start speaking because of the work you and everyone else is doing. I'm a union tradesman, so I can't be canceled. Would you mind doing a shout out? You mean reading your, by shout out, you mean reading your posts? Absolutely. I will always, if you super chat, I will always read it. And whatever you write there, I might have to reword it if it is something that's going to bring down the channel. But I will always, if you super chat a question or comment, it is going to be read in one way or another. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming over from Poseidon. He's a great man doing great work for our people, providing community, providing culture for our people. And that is why the anti-whites want to shut him down, whereas other people can say far more about what's going on in the world. They can talk about individual groups of people than more so than I can, or Poseidon can, or Jared George can. They can talk about superiority or inferiority. They can talk about violence. They can talk about all of these different things as long as they sow in a poison pill. They don't know, they don't have to be aware that that's the reason why they are allowed to talk about these things and not get a strike. I'm sure you all have seen them on their channels, and they say, I don't know why I'm not banned yet, but, well, I know why you're not banned. Because at some point in your discussion about whether or not this conspiracy theory about Michelle Obama is true, or whatever it might be, that would get me they would shut this stream down in the middle of the stream if I were to start saying the same sorts of things. That in the midst of saying those things, you then say, well, there's nothing we can do. And that's what they want the public to hear. That's what they want all of you to hear. And so that's why such people are being trained. That's why we all are being trained. New content producers who are coming along right now are looking at, well, what do I have to do to get a big audience? And they look out and they look at Poseidon, and they look at me, and they look at Jared George, and they say, well, look at these folks. They really can't say a whole lot. Their audiences are not nearly the size, their subscriber base is not nearly the size of these other folks over here. And these other folks over here, they can say all kinds of things. They can conspiracy theories, and nothing happens, and the audience numbers just keep clicking up. And without even realizing it, they will see and pick up on what else is there that enables them to be present. They will imitate it. And that is things like be violent, or hide in a hole in the ground, be a craven, or be an abstractionist. It's all abstractions. You know, nothing is the real world. This is Sargon-esque. He's an abstractionist. Be that sort of thing, or just say there's nothing that can be done. Say that sort of thing. This is what these folks say. And if you do that, then they'll be able to stay on YouTube. They'll be able to have massive audiences. They'll be able to make more and more money. And make no mistake, I said this a long time ago about these abstractionists by the numerous names they've called themselves. Who gives a damn what they call themselves? They're just abstractionists. That I gamble and I guarantee that the majority of the money they're making is coming by accounts produced by anti-whites, either working directly for or whatever institution, public or private or whatever it might be, funneling money to train you all in the public on what you are allowed to say, what will make you rich for saying. For some people, they'll make them quite rich. I mean, look at the 6 and 7 figures that are made by some of these people because they say the things that the regime wants them to say. That's how they train people. They also are training you all like dogs, Pavlov's dogs, because you end up, if you're not shrewd, if you're not paying attention, you end up on these channels watching these people and imbibing these poison pills. The idea that there's nothing that can be done, or the idea that you should be a craven and dig a hole and then go hide in that hole. All of that benefits the anti-whites. Nothing here will benefit the anti-whites. So thank you very much for that super chat, cultural oncologist. Lou, super chatting £2. Great to see you, Lou. I haven't seen you in a while. Writing, this stream is blocked in the UK for your information. Well, it sure is on No White Guilt. And that is because the anti-white, pink-haired freaks in the government in the UK who are, when they're not busily hiding behind a skirt, they're wearing one, irrespective of their genitalia. They are busily shutting down any information reaching you all that could benefit you, to help you go free of their meme pathogens, their anti-white narrative. So you can jump right on over to Gardening with NWG if you want to watch on YouTube, but you can also go to a slew of others now that are available. I am on, right now we're live on Periscope, we're live on DLive, we're live on Mixer, we're live on numerous other platforms, Facebook, VK. You can watch on all of these others, and the anti-whites won't be able to stop you from seeing me there. Ryan Manley, super chatting $9.99, writing, support the work. Thank you, my good friend, dear friend, Ryan Manley, always a great contributor. I see Ruination is here and saying that James Alsip is on TRS now. Great to see you, brother. Talk about your competition. I submitted a video for the competition, and the due date, I think, is coming up. But maybe I'll jump over to the other computer and drop the link for it so that folks can make some videos for that competition. If you haven't seen my video for it, ladies and gentlemen, it's called Heresy Asylum, and watch it after the stream. It's actually, you could jump on, watch it right now briefly, because it's a short video, powerful video. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for your service to White Wellbeing. And Ryan, thank you for always being here, always speaking up, and being in the chats. Goober Magoob, $1.99 over here on Entropy. Thank you so much. Teach your sons and daughters. Indeed. Don't let, ladies and gentlemen, I was talking to a woman in the cause yesterday, and she was telling me that at a Christian school, and this is a Christian private school, that they are, every week, they get these material from some anti-white publisher, and the teachers go through this at the elementary school level, going through with the children all of these meme pathogens every single week, and indoctrinating the children into the anti-white narrative. Despicable. So we talked a little bit about how to speak to her children, and when we start having calls, we'll be talking about that sort of thing here live, so that everyone will be able to benefit from the kind of things and become aware. I mean, right now, I guarantee you there's a mother who's hearing, what do you mean? We're paying a lot of money for my children to go to this private Christian school, and then they're going to go and take a look at the curriculum, and they're going to say, my God. They will have had no idea. So we will have just saved some more lives, and we'll be getting more testimony like the ones I was sharing a little bit ago. And this 3 of 30 over the past week. So just know that there are people. I talked with a woman who said that, and I won't be giving your name if you're present right now, but I talked with a woman who said that when she first started going free, she had a couple days of it being such a shock to her system that she vomited several times. That's not the first time that I've heard that. When people realize the state that we are in, when they realize when they see the world for the first time, when they look down at the world from the top of that tower, from the top of that tall building, and they see things for what it really is, it is a dizzying spectacle. So she is not the first to vomit several times from realizing that he or she, these folks have lived their lives. We all have lived our lives totally unaware. Now, having said that, she had what we call blind sight. So, and many of you who are already here, the first ones to White Wellbeing, you also had blind sight. You saw that something wasn't right. The world, you couldn't quite articulate it. You couldn't quite put your finger on it. You saw something wrong here, something wrong there. You knew that things were going in the wrong direction, but you were so deep in the MPs, so your infection so thorough, your white noir just at its peak, that you had no idea what was going on in your environment, like a fish in water. And as a result, you, upon seeing this for the first time, you end up ill, you end up in shock, you end up sometimes vomiting as a consequence. Now, if I could, it appears that the video went down on the Gardening with NWG channel. Is it still up, or is it down? Is it gone? Did it come back up? Lapis is saying that she can attest to that, the shock, the dizzying reality of going free for the first time. Let's see. Looks like we're still on No White Guilt. Looks like that stream's going fine. Folks, if you can still hear me over there on Gardening with NWG, try to refresh the page and let's see if we can get it back. Okay, had to refresh. Very good. Great to see you all still here. So, let me take a quick look. We're having a lot of participation tonight, ladies and gentlemen. This is fantastic. As I look out, just know this. We are reaching new people everywhere. Think about we're getting on more and more of these gamer channels. Think about all of these young men out there who think that all they can do with their lives is game. And some of them are going to be brilliant. Some of them are going to be average, but they're all going to be able to serve the cause of white well-being. They're being told by these MGTOW groups and everything that they need to hate. They need to hate the world. They need to hate our people. They need to hate our women. They need to just game. They need to just stay at home in their basements. They're going to be coming to us too. They're going to be bringing great industry, great intelligence, great strength to the cause. So we are reaching them as well. Just know that. They're reaching out to me as well. I had one last week who wrote to me and said that he's now pulling himself out of this mire that he had found himself in after going down this road of this sort of, I guess it was even a harsher version of the MGTOW community, the MGTOW extremists, perhaps. I don't know what they call themselves. But he found himself hating Western civilization as though Western civilization, rather than anti-whites, are to blame. And I predict this, that you're going to see a lot more of that sort of writing, that sort of leadership in these men's rights groups, leading them toward blaming Western civilization. Why? Because this is how the anti-whites always work. They'll take everything out there in society. They'll say the dolphins are dying because of white people. The sound pollution is too great because of white people. It's always going to be our fault. And then they're going to turn the people who are most angry, most energized, most ready to do something, to contribute their time and their effort to something. They're going to turn them against us. So we're not going to let it happen anymore. We're going to tell them who's really at fault. We're going to tell them why our women, instead of interviewing our young men for mates, have turned to this other path that is extremely unproductive for our people. And we're going to tell them how we're going to remedy that. So we're going to point their rage in the right direction. And it's not at us in Western civilization. Dispatcher super chatted $2 over on YouTube. Writing the NAACP, National Association for Area. Okay, it's NAACPP, National Association for Aryan Cohesion and Preservation. Thank you very much for the $1 super chat. Is that a real organization? I haven't heard of it before. America Only super chatting $5 on Entropy. Thank you very much. It's not illegal in most states to mail a Photoshop of the No White Guilt cover with no return address to white neighborhoods for really cheap. Well, then, ladies and gentlemen, if you check And right there from America only, super chatting $5. Thank you very much for the contribution and the bit of information that you have provided. If you find that this is the case, that you can officially mail this and legally mail a Photoshop of no white guilt to the community, then that can be a way that you could serve white well-being. Technically, and for legal reasons, I cannot tell any of you to do any of this. This is a guerrilla information campaign. And the reason why I spoke on it this past week is because the anti-whites, being as unscrupulous as they are, suddenly there'll be a knock on the door. It'll be a sheriff, and it'll be some town in Timbuktu says that you're filing charges because you told somebody to distribute leaflets, and that violates our out-of-town encouragement to distribute leaflets law that we just put into effect and is retroactive. And so I can't tell you all to do that, but you all surely can go about this of your own volition for white well-being. Wyoming atheist super chatting $5. Not writing anything, but saying much with the $5. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's see what we have. I know we have some other super chats, some other comments. I want to make sure I get to everybody's and don't miss anybody's. I hope Seaver can help me if we get particularly lost with super chats. I do have my backup super chat screen up in case the anti-whites are trying to undermine what we are doing. Okay, I think I've got them all. We will get to the other super chats on the other platforms in just a minute. We are going to take a less than probably a 60-second break. I'm going to adjust the AC. It's a little cooler in Virginia today, so I might get a little. If I leave the AC at where it is right now, I might freeze. So I will be back in approximately 30 to 45 seconds. And we're back. I'm going to drink. Now, the wasps. I didn't notice that anybody figured out what the wasps were. So I am going to tell you now who the wasps are. Now, the wasps were female pilots during World War II in the United States. Celtic Knight says it was about 56 seconds. I'll try to get closer to accurate next time. The wasps were female pilots during World War II in the United States, and there weren't many of them. But what we're going to be talking about today here is extremely important, and I want you all to pay very special attention to this, because this is where so many of us drop the ball when it comes to service to white well-being. So many of us are allowing the anti-whites to decide what the story of our world is going to be. And that we cannot do anymore. We have to be the creators of our own story, not players in their stories. For example, we talk about the fact that I say, and you all should consider taking the same approach to this, that I am neither a Jew nor a Gentile. The reason why that is because I am not a character in their story. That is their story. In my story, we are at the center of the story. We are Western kind. The story is our story. Everyone else is around that story, and they can either serve white well-being, they could be a neutral and just not bring harm to us, or they decide to be anti-white. But we are at the center of our story. We are writing our story, not the anti-white. Seaver Hamlin says amen to that. Jonas says he thought it was a kind of insect. No, it's actually female pilots in the United States of America during World War II. Beer Hall Pooch says we need a handbook of talking points and responses to accusations, etc. for the normies. I can help with this. Well, I absolutely welcome the help, and we are almost finished with the second edition of Go Free, which also will be electronic, and so that can be used to gather information to provide to what we refer to as the vagues, the normies. They're the vagues. Not quite sure where they are on the issues. Now, these were not fighter pilots in World War II. In fact, women were not permitted to participate in these fields. Now, this is how we're going to approach this. I saw a brief documentary about the WASPs, and the documentary took the anti-white perspective. Not surprising, because it would not have been aired had it taken any other perspective. So what we're talking about here is unhealthy versus healthy perspectives today. Salubrious perspective versus a deleterious perspective. Salubrious, health-giving; deleterious, health-detracting. We should all only view all events salubriously, health-giving, those events that serve white well-being. So what I'll do first is I will give you the anti-white perspective and then the white well-being perspective. So in other words, the makers of the documentaries info, anti-whites. Now, the first one is anti-white perspective. These women were forced to perform military duties, but they were cruelly denied status as airmen or airwomen, I guess. I think airman is probably neutral. They were cruelly denied that. They were forced to perform military duties, and they were cruelly denied status in the military. That is the anti-white perspective. Can anybody tell me why that is grossly wrong? Does anybody know, without me having to say, why that perspective is wrong? I mean, I'll just say it in a minute. I'm not going to make everybody wait for somebody to guess. But I'll take a look at both the chats. JC Stalling, oh my God, white slavery. Yes. Rosie the Riveter, yet women filled many roles while the men were away, and we are most grateful that our women are competent enough to serve in such roles. But no man wants to see his daughter have to serve in some role that is going to be overly difficult and burdensome for her. Vladimir says it's divisive. Yes, it is. No Duchess says guess. Let's see. Ruination says you don't fight for status. You kind of in the direction I'm headed there, brother. I don't know if I should say who you are. Do folks know who Ruination is? If you don't, you should subscribe to, or if you do, you should subscribe to his channel, but you should subscribe either way. Zendrovin says, too late in the day to think. It is for some, and that's absolutely. I forgot to mention a good Sunday evening to many of you, and a good Monday morning to some of you. Forgot the questions, No Duchess says. Sonia says, I want to be a mother. I hope soon. Praying. Amen to you. That's beautiful. And it's most beautiful that I know you'll be raising a proud white child. Heidi writes, per my super chat, we have some very young folk here. Reminder that school is not the parameter of their world. School can be rough, and parents can be rough per school rules. Indeed, well said. We need to be there for our young, making sure that they are aware of what the anti-whites are going to be teaching them at school. If you cannot homeschool, and many of us can't, then you absolutely need to be preparing them for what they're going to be seeing. Jay Blue says, you let the state tell you what you are. Hugo says, to a different point, along the same part of history, we fought the wrong enemy. Jilly Storm says, the men reluctantly offered pilot jobs to these WASP women. Ruination says, the purpose of war is to protect the status of our women. Well, yeah, absolutely part of it. I agree. And now we have folks who want to know, which is it? Well, the first thing is, the ladies were forced to perform military duties, but they were cruelly denied status in the military. The idea here is that women were somehow had demanded and forced their way through the door, shouldered their way through into an institution that they simply were not permitted to participate in. But they somehow forced their way in, and then somehow, even though the white males couldn't stop them from forcing because they're just doing it because they're women and they're strong and they're powerful. But somehow, even though the men couldn't stop them from forcing their way in, somehow the men could abuse them and deny them status in the military. So the perspective here is that white men were being cruel to white women, and they were being discriminatory. They were inflicting harm on them. They were abusive toward women. Isn't that what's being said here? Here's the truth. White males treated and do treat women better than any other group of males on planet Earth. That's a fact. They decided, white men, in the goodness of our hearts, to allow women to participate in an institution that women had not been permitted to participate. So a bunch of white guys said, hey, I've got a daughter, I've got a wife, I've got a mother, I happen to love white women. Maybe we should let women who want to participate, maybe we should allow them to participate. That's what happened. That's how women got into these roles, because white men, out of the goodness and kindness of their heart, wanted to offer them the opportunity to participate in these roles. Now, they did it in steps, of course. They couldn't just say, well, we'll just pluck a woman out of society and we're going to make her a general. And we're going to make her an admiral or something of this nature. They had to, one step at a time. They decided they were going to allow women to participate. And so the first step to allowing them to participate was this step. So the anti-whites take what actually happened, the events on the ground, which is that white men permitted women to participate in an institution that they heretofore had not been permitted to participate. They, out of the goodness of their heart, and then to effectuate this process of bringing them into or permitting them to participate in the military, there was a first step to getting them in. The anti-whites reinterpret this. They reinterpret reality so that it conflicts with reality. And they say, no, women got into the military. Magically, they forced the men to accept them in the military. But somehow, the evil white men could prevent them from having full military status. Do you see the difference between the perspectives? The other point of fact is that there were not an infinite number of roles that they could hand out to these women who they were going to permit to participate. So there were economic considerations when it came to how many women could be permitted to participate, and there were discriminatory considerations. In other words, how many men, how many white males were you going to discriminate against to permit women to come in and serve these pilot roles? So there were economic and discriminatory considerations. There were white men, out of the goodness of their heart, because they loved their wives, daughters, and mothers, decided to allow women to participate in the military, to fly these planes for the military. And they knew they had economic considerations that limited. They had a culture that was much more accepting of women having more rights than elsewhere around the world. And so they brought them in by one stage at a time, out of the goodness of their hearts. But at the same time, they didn't want to radically discriminate against a great many white males. And there, as I say, there was also the economic side of it. You couldn't just bring in all the women that wanted to fly a plane. They organized to effectuate this. White males organized a gigantic application process so that many, many thousands, tens of thousands of women could apply. Any women out there that wanted to apply were permitted to apply. And the reason why that process existed was not because women forced it on civilization, not because they not because they just attained their rights while fighting off the evil white man. This is absurd. No, this was offered them. This was organized and offered and executed for their benefit by white males. And then, of course, they had to figure out which of the applicants were going to be good enough or would best suit these roles. So the first step to allowing them to participate in the military was to allow them to perform duties in the military without all of the obligations. So keep that in mind. While all of their male counterparts who were also flying test planes, who were also ferrying a plane from point A to point B, who were also flying cargo planes from point A to point B, those individuals, the males, they had obligations, they had responsibilities. The same onerous responsibility was not placed on the women. They got to participate. They were considered civilians serving in these military roles. So if anything, the men were going easy on the women. The next anti-white perspective is that the wicked white man paid these women less than he paid the men. This is how many times have you heard this about the women are getting paid less nonsense? The white well-being perspective is, again, white men, permitted women to participate in an institution in which they were not permitted to participate. They were not held to the same requirements. They were not held to the same obligations and responsibilities. They were expected to perform the duties that were given to them, but they did not lose all of their freedoms that the men lost, and therefore they were paid less. The fact that they got paid at all for something that they were not permitted to do is a blessing to them. It is a great testament to the fairness in the heart of white men that they decided that they were going to permit women to participate and pay them for the participation. But the anti-whites take the same facts and they turn it around. You see how They do the exact same thing with this that they do with apartheid. They do the exact same thing they do with this as they do with segregation. They take the munificence, the generosity, the charity of our race. And not only do they bite the hand that feeds them, they rip the whole goddamn arm off. That is what you get when it comes to anti-whites. You think your charity is going to earn you some place in their heart? You have to be dumber than hell to continue to think that. It doesn't matter how much you surrender. It doesn't matter how much you flee. Look at South Africa. Look at Rhodesia. Look at St. Domingo. It's never been enough. You can never surrender enough. There is no munificence. There is no generosity. That is enough for the anti-whites. So the women were paid for a service that they had not been permitted. A service that was created by white males and that was gifted them because they wanted to participate, and God bless them for wanting to participate. And then these generous white males also paid them. Instead of a pat on the back and eternal thank you, what do we hear in our classrooms? This is when women finally fought through the discrimination of the white males. This is when the non-whites finally fought through the discrimination and got rights for this or that. They didn't have power to do squat. Everything that they got was given to them. Anti-white perspective. The women were denied the same amount of training that the men received. Bravo, Sierra. The women, again, were introduced to a field in which they had not been permitted to participate. They were given the training for the roles that they performed. They were not given training for roles they did not perform, like fighter pilot. Why would the government... Now, see, that's speaking to the anti-white position, and we're not going to do that here. White women were permitted to participate, and I even think there might have even been if you look up the pictures, there might even be some non-white women that were even permitted to participate. But they were paid, they were trained for doing the things that they did. Some of them even crashed airplanes and lost their lives in the process of crashing those airplanes. And we feel for them, their families, for when that happened. But they were given the training for the jobs they had to perform that was offered them as a gift from white males. Here's the huge note and then we're going to get into the other super chats, your questions, comments, other things that you're talking about, and this movie made by this absolute anti-white piece of garbage, Jonathan Garcia, whom I hope rots in hell when he finally gets his season pass. Here's the real kick to this whole documentary. The whole documentary, they're talking about this anti-white perspective that comes from the anti-white narrative, that white males were oppressing white women, that white women fought their way through the oppression, and they got to this point where they could get a little bit of rights, but they were still being discriminated against by the evil white men. So they had to keep fighting through the oppression instead of it being, they had no power whatsoever. Here's the real kick between the legs. The people doing the research, digging up all of the info that nobody knows about of this history. None of you could answer. Nobody knows about this history. The people digging it up is not white women bringing this info to the world. It's three white guys. It's three white guys who are digging up the history of these white women so that we can honor them for the roles that they played, that white men gifted these white women. Nothing they fought for. Nothing they had any strength to take from white men. A gift given freely and out of love to them, now turned around in the anti-white narrative to make white males look like the bad guy, that we were preventing them from having their full say and their full rights and their full participation. 3 white guys are the ones honoring these white women. And that is how we are still painted today. So I want to hear from you white ladies. Whenever this story comes up, whenever the anti-whites start talking about the WASPs, because in the future, rest assured, this will become popular. The anti-whites will make a movie out of this to talk about the anti-white narrative, to tell the world how evil the white male is. I want all you white women to scream at the top of your lungs that no, it was a glorious gift out of the goodness of their hearts, out of their munificence that they gave us. We took nothing from the white males. They gave us a gift. And not only that, but the people who are revealing this to the world, digging up all of these archives, digging through the many hundreds of thousands of documents that they're digging through to pull up all the names of all of these ladies, find out who all of them were white men. How much do you want to bet when the anti-whites make the movies of a particular type of anti-white? I would bet as well. How much do you want to bet that these white guys are going to be cast in supporting roles to white women who never existed in the process of digging up this history? Anybody want to place bets? If you want to bet against that, I got some oceanfront property in Kansas I can offer you. This is how it works when it comes to the anti-white narrative and women. This is how it comes to the anti-white narrative and non-whites. It is always treated as though these groups had some sort of power so that they could fight their way through the discrimination. They could fight their way through the strictures laying upon them by the evil white man, when the reverse is true. Make sure you tell everyone that you have these conversations with. Make sure everyone knows that blacks were given citizenship, that non-whites altogether have been given the most valuable thing on planet Earth, citizenship in Western countries, as a gift from the white race. They didn't fight and force it from our hands. They drink from our water fountains because we have allowed it. They ride in our school buses because we have allowed it. They don't wear shackles today. The world is not in bondage today because the white man put an end to slavery. White women can vote today because white men allowed it. Rest assured, if you have any confusion, just look around the world and see what the men of any race can do to the women of any race if they get fed up. If they decide, you know what, we're just not going to put up with this anymore and we're going to put it down. Look at what the men of other races do. These are gifts from our race. And I'm going to mention it briefly because I said it before a few weeks ago. Apartheid, segregation, giving women rights. This is all about a homeowner finding a homeless person and saying, I'm going to take you in. This guest bedroom is going to be yours. This part of the refrigerator you can use. You can use this much electricity and water. You can have these cabinets for your things. This is the closet that I'm going to allow you to put your things in while you stay in my house that I built with my labor, my ingenuity, my industry. And what have we seen in Western civilization? We have seen that vagrant go from living as a guest by our good deeds in our homes to now sleeping in our bed with our wives in the master bedroom, using our master bathroom, using the totality of our kitchen, controlling the books for our houses, dictating what the destiny of our home and property will be, and telling us that if we don't like it, we can live in the shed. That is what we have seen in Western civilization, ladies and gentlemen. That is what the gifts have been done to us. When you gift people and you allow this poison of anti-whiteism to infect their thinking, and you don't continually reassert that it is your home and that what you have done is nothing more than a gift, when you don't continually reassert that you have what we now have, the vagrant now telling us to get out of our own houses. Jonathan Garcia, may he rot in hell, non-white, anti-white, produced a movie called Why Don't We, I'm going to use the word mortal for the reasons I said earlier in the stream, why don't we mortal more white people? The runtime was 11 minutes, 17 seconds. It was put on a loop. It says here about the movie, why don't we mortal more white people? Is an examination of whiteness. Yet again, ladies and gentlemen, a reason to never utter the word whiteness. It is disgusting. It is stupid. And if you use it, you are stupid. Whiteness sounds like a gross infection. It is their word. It means white people and oppression by white people. We do not stand up for whiteness. We stand against anti-whiteism. Everyone you meet, friends, family, or stranger, will be able to understand anti-whiteism. They know what anti means, they know what white people are, and they know that ism is a concept. You will have nothing to explain to them. I have experimented with this thousands of times. I've never had an issue. If you have an issue, it's because it's your personal problem. It's not because the concept doesn't work. Whiteness is their word. If you continue to say, and I don't know why I keep hearing people in the white positive sphere saying that they are for whiteness. That means you are for white people oppressing non-whites. Can you be any dumber? I mean, sometimes, Shakespeare, I have to be cruel to be kind. And this is a case where I have to be cruel to be kind. If you use the word whiteness, you are an imbecile. Period. Let everybody know that. I've said the reasons why. You're not going to be able to take the word whiteness away from the anti-whites. They own it. It's their word. It's written in hundreds of thousands of essays, in books, in numerous articles to mean what it means. You're not going to rehab the word. And who would want to? Who would want to rehab something so ugly? We serve white well-being. That's what we serve. We stand against anti-whiteism. Why don't we mortal more white people is an examination of whiteness, its unassailable immorality, and how it permeates our daily lives, is what this Garcia demon writes. Through film and installations centered in living spaces, why don't we mortal more white people interrogates empathy and morality as a fulcrum of identity for people of color. I mean, this is god-awful writing. This is the typical pabulum that you get from anti-whites. It is absolute nonsense. As we continue to watch the death of black and brown people, or maybe I should Babelism. As you continue to watch the death of black and brown people become normalized in parallel with the rise of white supremacy, this project asks, why isn't the inverse true? So do you hear that? As we continue to watch the death of black and brown people become normalized in parallel with the rise of white supremacy, the death of black and brown people become normalized. So you must be asking yourself, if you have any sense, where is that becoming normalized? And I'm going to tell you in just a moment. With the rise of white supremacy. And where is that again? I'm going to tell you where that is in just a moment. This project asks, why isn't the inverse true? And the inverse, of course, is, why don't we mortal more white people? I can't say the actual word because they'll strike the channel for saying that I am encouraging violence against white people. which of course would be absurd, but the anti-whites are absurd. It says here, and this is, by the way, is an article by Paul Kersey, a good writer and advocate for white well-being. San Francisco's Yorba Buena, it's probably pronounced Yorba Buena, Center for the Arts is a large museum in downtown. This nonprofit is funded by the city of San Francisco, the National Endowment for the Arts, Bloomberg Philanthropies, and the James Irvine Foundation. Look at all of these power. So I ask you right there, ladies and gentlemen, is that the system? Or is that the little guy fighting the system? The museum is funded by the city of San Francisco, the National Endowment of the Arts, the Bloomberg Philanthropies, and the James Irvine Foundation. Is that the little guy against which all hopes and all odds are against? Is that the little guy fighting the system, or is that the system? We'll talk about it. From July 23rd to August 25th, YBCA screened Jonathan Garcia's movie, Why Don't We Mortal More White People? It was an endless loop, and each cycle lasted 11 minutes and 17 seconds. Mr. Garcia, Anti-White Garcia, produced this video as a year-long YBCA fellow, for which he got a stipend, he was paid, and an honorarium. YBCA identifies him as, quote, Community Engagement and Inclusion Associate, Chief of Staff of the Social Club Author. So he gets a title from the system, funding, a paycheck, and everything from the system. Is this the little guy fighting the system? Where does that come from? Does anybody know? Let me take a look. Let's get to some of these great super chats. Wilhelm Stark, by way of the familiar alternative, almost an hour ago right now, super chatting by way of the familiar alternative, a princely $100. Thank you deeply, my good friend, to the cause of white well-being. This is for getting your books into the hands of Afrikaners. Could we connect with Simon Roche and the Swadelanders? He would be a great person to distribute the books. We might be able to, brother. I am working with someone right now who is sending books down to South Africa. And I mentioned, I think it was the last stream, that she offered to pay for all. I said I would get the cheapest rate I could, but I wouldn't let her pay for the lot of them. I decided to buy half myself to send them down to South Africa. So she and I are going to make that happen. I don't know if I can mention her name yet, so I won't. But if she tells me that I can, I will absolutely honor her. Could we please actually get a round of applause for both this unnamed benefactor who lives in North America, of our brothers and sisters in South Africa, as well as Wilhelm Stark for the kind investment of $100. Joshua Randall, super chatting $10 by way of the familiar alternative. There's a billboard in town close to me that says, embrace your culture. It helps prevent addiction. Embrace your culture. It helps prevent addiction. With a Native American art on it. Anti-whites know that embracing your culture is good for your mental health, but it is only allowed for the non-whites. Beautifully said. And thank you for sharing that with us, Joshua. Thank you very much for the contribution to white well-being, the financial one, and for this information. Precisely, the anti-whites know that embracing your people, embracing your biosphere, embracing your culture protects you from a great many maladies that can afflict and strike down a person, including substance abuse. What do we see right now in the white race? Skyrocketing. Substance abuse and suicide. And that is because we are denied our identity. The only element that we can embrace of our identity is this antagonist, we're going to talk about it in just a moment. This antagonist, this bad guy, this baddie, as they say in the UK, this awful monster, that is the only identity that you are allowed to embrace. And if you embrace it, you end up trying to flee from it, marring your flesh, using drugs, engaging in white flight, whether it means just moving from one neighborhood to the other or the ultimate white flight of suicide. It means destroying yourself with alcohol. It means embracing other cultures, searching endlessly in the biospirits of non-white peoples for meaning in your life that you will never find. It will never resonate with you. Nothing seems more incongruous, and we all have seen this. Nothing seems more incongruous than that white woman down the road, or that white guy the block over who has embraced some bizarre anti-white biospirit, and they go traipsing through town looking like they're out of it all the time, because they are out of it. They're not healthy, and they know they're not healthy. And now we all know, because they make videos endlessly now about how they're not healthy. They're worshiping this form of non-white culture or that form of non-white culture, and they're still having these problems. And then they talk about all of the cleanses that they have to endlessly do to their bodies because of how out of sync they are. No shit. No shit. I apologize for my language, but you are not going to find harmony in the biospirits of alien peoples. You are only going to find harmony if you are a member of Western kind by embracing our identity. Pick any hue of it you want. Be a Southerner in the United States and pick French culture. Be an Italian and pick Canadian. It doesn't matter. If you are white, if you are a Westman, pick some hue, or all of it, as I do, of Western civilization and embrace it, and you will find a new power resides in you. That is why they want you to turn away from it. That's why they want you going out and buying all of these bizarre artifacts that were just made 3 weeks ago in China, so that you can connect with who you are by way of some non-white culture. Or your travel, as we see endlessly, the peoples, our brothers and sisters in Europe, traveling endlessly to India, to the Far East, etc., looking for some sort of meaning, going down into some jungle, and all they find instead are leeches. And they post these ridiculous pictures of themselves. Here I am standing in the mud by this statue made by some alien people a few hundred years ago, who, by the way, it was a few hundred years ago, and our white ancestors, explorers, were already there, had already visited there and spoken with these people. They're so-called ancient artifacts. They're not finding any meaning there. No surprise. So great point, Josh. And what do you all think? If we were to put up a sign and it said the exact same words, embrace your culture, it helps prevent addiction, and you have a white man, arm around a white woman, and 4 or 5 children, what do you think the anti-whites would say of that? And what does that tell you then about the kind of thing that you are dealing with? It tells you all you need to know about that individual, that that person is anti-white, and that they are your victimizer. They're not your enemy. They are your victimizer, and that you are going to defend yourself. Olivia says white supremacy, of course. Of course, that's what they'd say. Well said. Tree of Wisdom says entropy, please. All right, I'll take a look in a moment. Over on the Familiar Alternative, we have Edgar Allen, super chatting $10. Thank you so very much. Writing, we ran out of sunscreen at work, and a girl joked, quote, guess we need to hire more non-whites. Yeah, it's funny. She's not genuinely anti-white, so I didn't want to be overly confrontational. Would you respond with a lighthearted version of diversity hire, diversity fire? I would indeed. That would be a beautiful way to handle it, Edgar Allan. That is absolutely. She's not clearly there She is villainy signaling. And she's revealing a number of meme pathogens. They instantly come to my mind what she's suffering with. She's revealing white noir. The best thing to do in that scenario is an MC just like that. Diversity, hire, diversity, fire. We hire a non-white person. The company doesn't have an infinite number of roles that can be filled, an infinite supply of money. And so if we're going to hire somebody to work because they happen to be non-white, then that means maybe you will be fired. Maybe we'll get rid of you, and your children won't be able to eat because you won't be able to pay your bills. Brilliantly done. See, this is the community coming together. This is what the anti-whites hate. I guarantee you, when they heard me just read this by Edgar Allan, they shuddered with fear because they see this coming together, ladies and gentlemen. Stranix super chatting $10 by way of the familiar alternative. Welcome to Telegram to you, Yuri, Mark, and several others I have helped set up. Thank you very much. Absolutely. Please send anyone else my way who needs assistance getting up and running as well. Thanks for helping to set us free. Absolutely. I will absolutely. Thank you so much for the help that you gave me. And your name is different on that platform. So thank you so much, though, for helping me get up and running on Telegram. It means a great deal. I will be sending updates. And so a big spotlight on you. And thank you very much for the $10 investment. And I will indeed. I'll be reaching out to you again, I'm sure, for more assistance. And I will indeed send other folks your way. So let's see what we have over here. It's been a little while, so I want to refresh these screens. And we'll be wrapping up here soon, ladies and gentlemen. How long have we been going? It's been 2.5 hours. At the moment, I'm only 3/4 of the man Poseidon is. We have to keep going. All right, let's see. Over on Ko-fi, we have a super chat by Matthew, super chatting $21. Thank you very much, my dear friend. Thanks for making my Sunday evenings worthwhile, Jason. It's very encouraging to see this growing community. Indeed, Matthew, it absolutely is encouraging. These messages that are coming in that are encouraging, the things you all are writing are very encouraging. Let's see what we have here. I saw something on, I can't find it. I saw somebody write something about it's their words, so it's damaging to us. Somebody wrote over on Gardening with No White Guilt as I was scanning here, and it is gone. But I thank you for that comment, and I will check over on Entropy before we go. So let me just get to this point that needs to be touched upon for everybody. This is what you need to tell your friends and family. This is what you need to understand. Each one of us understands the world beyond our immediate lives, our family, our jobs, our brothers, our sisters, our children. Each one of us understands that world as nothing more than a storyline. That's all it is. It's provided us by the regime. And the regime, of course, is anti-white. It is the anti-white elites. So everybody who objects to, doesn't want to use, they feel tripped up by the word elite. You just call them the anti-white elites. Don't just call them elites. We are the elect of Western kind. We are the people who are going to set our race free by making a people out of this race once again. We are the elect that will pass through the bottleneck to a greater, brighter, and stronger tomorrow. The anti-white elites promulgate a storyline that we call the anti-white narrative. Now, events that happen in the real world, everything, focus, people, everything beyond your immediate life is going to be a storyline one way or another. And it's articulated by the major institutions, news and entertainment media, universities, churches, governments, etc. And it should be no surprise, and it should tell you quite a bit, that when we look out across the world, if things were not actually in the hands of the anti-whites, we would see different narratives coming out of the different countries. We don't. In fact, we all see the same anti-white narrative in every single Western country. That tells you a lot that you need to understand in order to disembroil what's happening in the world, and then to make our way through that, to cut through that Gordian knot that the anti-whites have tied for us. We will make what Alexander the Great did in that tale look like child's play. We will feed that thing. Instead of hacking it with a sword, we will feed the Gordian knot to a wood chipper. And by the way, Gordian knot, just for the anti-whites who are out there, is not someone's name. Look it up. No. So you understand it as a narrative. And we are creating a counter narrative. We are writing our own story now. We're going to continue to talk about that because of how difficult it is to pull yourself out of this fictionalized reality, this false reality that the anti-whites give you, into the one that we create of our own words, our own deeds. So it is something that is going to take great struggle. It is something that is going to take great personal sacrifice. It's going to take a great amount of endurance and willpower. More than anything, it takes willpower. That is what we're talking about, where I hear these people writing me saying, or I read these people when they write, and they say, oh, well, they just wouldn't accept it right out of my mouth. There are no magic words. There's no magic spell. There's nothing that anyone can give you that is suddenly going to cause the anti-whites to go into some sort of catatonic state and just accept everything that comes out of your mouth. You have to have willpower, especially the men. So let's see here. Let me take a look at my notes. What happens when it comes to the anti-white narrative is events in the real world, whether they are, some of them, of course, might be completely fictionalized. They got to be careful about what we say, I say on YouTube, but they may or may not be real. But know this, when things happen in the real world that undermine or contradict the anti-white narrative, the anti-whites do what with that? They bury it underfoot. It becomes a hush crime. They don't want people to know about it. They isolate it. They cloister it. They eventually erase it from the internet. I have read stories over the years on the internet that I used to be able to type in a couple search words because I could remember what the search words were, and the story would immediately come up. For example, like the judge who in retirement said he was trying to get this weight of guilt off of his shoulders, that he had wrongly handled all of the cases against the white people that came before him, and one in particular that he sent to jail for a very long time because of how anti-white he was. Now, he didn't say the word anti-white, but he's obviously getting close to. Now, that story used to be available. You used to be able to type it in and find it immediately. Now it's down the memory hole. The anti-whites are deleting these things. So when anything out there in the real world contradicts the anti-white narrative, a storyline, a fiction, ladies and gentlemen, when anything contradicts it, they bury it underfoot. When it can be used, either twisted or bent or lied about or magnified, adorned, embellished, when something can be done to an event that happened in the real world that can serve to confirm the anti-white narrative, they write it in the sky. And then they will continue to embellish it and keep it alive for as long as it needs to be alive, for as long as it needs to be in your ears, so that it becomes part of the anti-white narrative, part of the story that you and this Garcia bastard lives by. Now, some of you, those who are brighter, are starting to catch on right now at what I'm getting at. If you're still mired a bit in what I'm getting at, don't worry, it'll become clear here in just a moment. I was talking to a very intelligent person in the cause. And that person, I was talking with that person about Garcia, and specifically about this phrase, which I focused on a moment ago. As we continue, now this is Garcia's words describing this wretched movie, that this encouragement to mortal, you all know the word that I'm not allowed to say, white people. His words, as we continue to watch the death of black and brown people become normalized in parallel with the rise of white supremacy. This person, who is a bright person, said he's looking out, Garcia is looking out at the world and seeing more and more people coming to white well-being. And what he wants to do, since he's anti-white, is he wants to reclassify that with this anti-white slur as white supremacy. In part, that person is true. But here is the real truth, ladies and gentlemen. In part, that person is correct, but here's the real truth. It's like when I say that when you look out at what the anti-whites are doing and you see hypocrisy, you've taken the first step to know what's taking place in the world around you. But the real place you need to reach is to realize that there is no hypocrisy. Once you understand that every action by the anti-whites is meant to inflict harm on Western kind and Western civilization, you instantly understand how they can passionately argue for contradictory positions. Because they are only contradictory if you accept the pretexts that they are giving you. They are not contradictory when you accept the reality of their hidden motivation to inflict harm on Western kind and Western civilization. Once you understand that, you can understand the anti-white. Here's the truth, the kernel that you need to get at. Yes, it's true that Garcia could look out at the world and say, wow, there are a lot of white people who are starting to care about white well-being. A lot of white people who are going free. And therefore, Garcia is going to call it white supremacy, this anti-white slur that he uses, revealing all we need to know about him, as if we didn't know all we need to know about that anti-white bastard by making a movie like that. Here's the truth about the world and about the anti-whites. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't matter whether there are more people coming to white well-being. It doesn't matter that there are more people coming to go free with us here. There could be a stagnant level. There could be a decreasing level. And Garcia would still say that because of the rise in white supremacy, and the reason why Garcia would still be able to say that is because that is the anti-white narrative. You are always guilty. There is always a rise in white supremacy in the anti-white narrative. There is always a normalization of harm inflicted and murder inflicted on non-white people according to the anti-white narrative. You can't escape this story. You can't win inside of it. The only thing you can do is get off the pages of their book. There is no argument you can make. There is no, we don't want supremacy over you. Supremacy means this and we don't want that. Supremacy means this other thing and we don't want that either. There is no argument you can make because in their narrative, there is always a rise in white supremacy. There is always the normalization of murdering non-whites. It will never end. And it is a sanguinary conclusion for you and your children. Bloody, ladies and gentlemen. Rivers of blood is the conclusion of that story. There is no neighborhoods that you can, there are no neighborhoods you can surrender. There are no positions in the leadership of your governments. There are no executive positions in your companies that you can surrender. There is never enough. You can't give your daughters over to them. It's not enough. You can't give your sons over to them. It's not enough. You can't have your children hating Western kind and Western civilization. It's not enough. It will never be enough. Because in the anti-white narrative, it doesn't matter what you do. The white man and woman is always the white devil. You are always the antagonist. That is why I say that the slogan that somebody wrote about in the thread that said it's okay to be white was a stroke of genius. Bravo, Sierra. Telling an anti-white in their narrative it's okay to be white is saying it's okay to be the antagonist. It's okay to be the bad guy. Do you know how easy it is for the anti-white to dismiss that? I saw anti-whites on interviews dismiss it like this. Teenagers saying, well, of course it's okay to be white. It's just not okay to be a racist. Another anti-white slur. That is how much genius is in that slogan. Now you can use that slogan. Of course it's okay to be, and absolutely say it loud and say it proud. It's an absolutely fabulous thing to say, to wear, to write. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's a big difference if you believe that that is going to be your salvation. There's a big difference between having it something that you say or write, or you have it on the case you put on your phone or whatever it might be. Using it that way and thinking instead, big difference between that and thinking that that is somehow some sort of master key, some sort of skeleton key. Because you're still stuck in the thought process that you are somehow going to trick the anti-whites out of seeing you as the antagonist in their story. You're not. You're still the antagonist. This is why we say no white guilt. Because then, ladies and gentlemen, the anti-white has to climb down off of that proud white horse that he or she sees himself on and begin to tell you why you should be victimized. That is the big difference. That is what we're doing here. We are writing a new story, a story in which we are the good guys. The anti-whites are the bad guys. And when you use your willpower, and don't come to me, any of you out there, and come back to me and say, well, I said anti-white once, and then they giggled as pathetic anti-whites, snarky anti-whites are wont to do. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, giggling and laughing is very often a sign of fear and intimidation and nervousness. They suddenly realize that they have to describe and explain why it is legitimate to victimize white people when you say no white guilt. So don't come back to me and say, I tried the word and then I gave up. You have to exercise some more will than that. And if that's all you have as far as will is concerned, then you've got to go work on your willpower. Maybe you need maybe you need to serve in a way that is not so much out on the front line. Because it's going to take a little bit more willpower than asking an anti-white to accept the role of the bad guy in our story. No, this is what you're going to do. This is our story. We are writing our narrative. It is the white positive narrative. And in the white positive narrative, the anti-whites are the bad guys. And you are not going to have any discussion on any other field. So if the anti-white wants to have a discussion with you, he or she has to come over to your field. He or she has to accept your precepts. And if they won't, then end that conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, innumerable men and women have died in combat. At no point in combat did they think to themselves, when confronted with the adversary who was coming to kill them, that, boy, I hope the adversary allows me to kill the adversary first, or injure the adversary first. At no point did they think that. So if you're going into this contest of wills, which is what this is, and you're waiting for the anti-white to allow you to just beg to be in our narrative, the white positive narrative, then being an adult isn't for you. Having these kinds of conversations isn't for you. Not everybody makes it to adulthood. Not every boy becomes a man. Not every girl becomes a woman. But you should strive to become a man. You should strive to become a woman. You say these things and you be as intractable as anyone the anti-white will have ever met. And if they don't like it, they can piss off. They want nothing more than to harm you and your family. Why give them another minute? Get to somebody who can hear our message and who can go free. I'll say it again, ladies and gentlemen, because it has to be said 100,000 times. Garcia, this anti-white bastard, is saying that white supremacy is on the rise because white supremacy is in the anti-white narrative. It is always on the rise in the anti-white narrative. It always will be on the rise in the anti-white narrative. It does not matter what white people are doing. White people could be doing right now, like I'm hearing about in Canadian cities, where white people are putting out leaflets saying that if you date or have sex with a white person, you are a white supremacist. White people could be doing that in every city across the West. And according to the anti-white narrative and the anti-whites of the world, the Garcias of the world, the governments and the medias of the world, white supremacy would still be on the rise because that is the goddamn narrative that the system functions by. Every white person could be surrendering their job to every brown person that lopes across a border. And they would still say that white people are discriminating and being bigoted against non-whites in hiring and promotion, etc., because that is part of the story in the anti-white narrative. This is not reality. They live by a fiction. Do not argue with them on this fiction. Do not tread into that wasteland of anti-white lies and fabrication and superstition. I don't give a damn if you went to Harvard or to Yale or to wherever. You are not going to beat them in their story. They are the authors of that story. You are nothing but a character. When has the characters of a book ever stood up and told the author, no, sir, this is the way the story will go? Never. We pick up the pen and we write the lines of our own story. And those first lines, ladies and gentlemen, that title is going to be written in the blood that is still being drawn from, still spilling from the wounds that the anti-whites have inflicted upon us. We will write that title in our blood, and we will dedicate that story to our children. And then, if need be, the rest of that book or portions of it will be written in the blood of others. So let's see what you all had to say. Brent Danger, super chatting $1 by way of the familiar alternative, asking if I would have a particularly a person of questionable background, I guess I could say fairly, on my streams. He's got a huge audience. Sociocultural views have moved extremely closer to yours now. It could be quite a boon. Well, thank you for the super chat. I will absolutely consider it. But I would have to also look into the costs, because that person still says a lot of things that are extremely detrimental to white well-being, to what we're doing. So He's chosen his path. More power to him. So I take nothing away from him. And where he goes right, I support that in every case. But I'm not even going to say the name, because that'll just bring more of the anti-whites at YouTube to the channel and look for any little thing that they can to delete the channel. But I thank you nonetheless for the suggestion. JC Stalling, no white guilt is the best. The non-whites are not tolerant. It's the anti-white non-whites are not tolerant. They do not believe in diversity. Mexico decided to help with illegal immigration only when sub-Saharan blacks came to Mexico. Well, yeah, I mean, I know there's, or at least until recently, they had a stipulation in the constitution of that country to prevent, and this may or may not be true. We can't even say, may or may not be true, that Mexico has or used to have a stipulation in the constitution that said someone who's not a Mexican cannot own property. This may or may not be true. You have to look for yourself. Every claim has to be couched this way because the anti-whites will say, oh, conspiracy theory. Outrageously Inoffensive says, we can never be ally enough to people who ultimately want to see us destroyed. Amen to that statement. Very well said. Let me refresh these pages and I will get over here to the entropy and we'll see what you all had to say over there. The questions, the super chats. We have okay. Heidi on Entropy, super chatting another $25. God bless you. Thank you for being a shining member of this rapidly growing community for white well-being, a community that after today knows and will share far and wide that what's happening in the world is irrelevant, is totally immaterial when it comes to anti-whites and the anti-white narrative. There is no arguing the author of their story out of the conclusions that they will write into it. She writes, Jason, could you direct some attention to our young folk here? Some extra encouragement, especially in the schools. I think they need to hear some good words that they are not wrong. I can only say to those of you who are still in university, in high school, in junior high school, when I started standing up against anti-whiteism, that you are in the right. You are a member of the victimized people. You are a member of a glorious, heroic people, a people that is done so much good for the world, it is incalculable. You have noble blood in your veins. You have nothing to feel guilty for. And I tell you this, I want you to look for anti-whiteism coming out of the mouths of your teachers, in the literature of the books they give you, in the rallies that they hold. I want you to look for that anti-whiteism because it's going to be there. And when you see it there, you will know that I have given you the truth, that I am giving you a key to unlock the peril and the misery and the heartache that you feel, that you can now come to us and you can find purpose in your life. You can find meaning in your life. You can be a hero like the heroes of old. And we will welcome you. Do not go down the path that the anti-whites want you to go down. You will never escape condemnation. You will never escape damnation that the anti-whites inflict on you. You won't be able to have sex with enough non-whites to escape the damnation. You won't be able to birth enough non-white babies to escape the damnation. You won't be able to say that you hate white people enough to escape the damnation. You have the biospirit of Western kind inside of you. And for that, indelibly, you are guilty. The only way that you're going to be able to see yourself in a good light, the only place that you will be held aloft as a hero or as a heroine is with us. and this rapidly growing community. You are not alone. There are many other students at your school that think the same way, in fear and intimidation, fear of the smear, fear of the anti-white slurs, fear of the physical assaults, and the knowledge that the anti-white administration and teachers are not going to protect you from the anti-whites, be it white or non-white. There are many others in your school that feel the same way, even if you don't know it to be true. And there are many millions of us around the world who feel the exact same way. You can come to our community. You can be a part of what we are building, a brighter tomorrow for you, for us, and for all of those who are yet to be. Be one of those heroes. I challenge you, if you're a young person today, be that next generation of heroes. Use your genius to save those who come after us. Use your beauty to spread this message. Use your strength in the arts to reach into people's hearts and to reach into their souls and spread the message of white well-being. And you will be remembered as a hero. Yours will be the statue that they will build. This is my challenge that I put to all of the young people. And every time the anti-whites come for you, where we are able, and they want to make an example out of you, we will throw our shield's arm in front of you. And you will get hardened by the contest. And we will come more tightly together than the white race has ever been since the dawn of our existence, when we were that single tribe looking out at a terrifying world, harsh environments, hostile tribes of other races, predators of all types stalking in the woods. And as they sought to conquer us, disease, mishap, storms, tribes, animal predators, as they sought to conquer us, we conquered them. We can be that people again. We will be that people again. Thank you very much, Heidi, for that kind super chat of $25. Emma Arian, super chatting $5 on Entropy. I recently started to homeschool my daughter. God bless you. I was curious about GED test questions. The history question was about manifest destiny. The question was, which statement provides evidence that one of two? I'm not quite... Are you on Twitter? Reach out to me. I'd like to know what homeschoolers are dealing with in their material. I've had some reach out to me, and I say Twitter. You can try my website. As I say, people are getting a lot of error messages at the moment, but reach out to me, and I'd like to know what you're being confronted with and the sources of the material. Simply do this. Teach your children, when it comes to, say, like they have to get a GED because they're homeschooled, say, and there's a test they have to pass, a state run or organized and given test. You teach your children that they need to pass this test. So there's no sort of political statement or socio-political statement that's worth making. They need to get beyond this test. So you teach your children, this is the anti-white garbage you're going to have to regurgitate to pass the test. So if they want to hear on the test that white people are responsible for slavery, you mark the box, and as you mark the box that white people are responsible for slavery, you're going to be thinking, son or daughter, about how evil the people are who wrote that test. You're going to be thinking, son or daughter, about the truth that all of the races of mankind practice slavery. All of the races of mankind have been enslaved by each of the other races of mankind in the most gruesome and hellish ways. And there is only one race that put an end to it. And you have that biospirit. And by the way, For all of those in America, or those who care about the Americas, when it came to the war for Southern independence, it was not fought over slavery. Southern plantation owners were already giving up their slaves. Not only that, I mean, God, there's so many facts. I guess maybe I should say this may or may not be true. What I'm saying may or may not be true. You have to look up for yourself. You have to research for yourself. So the Southern plantation owners looked to the North, and they saw what the Northern industrialists were doing, which was they were paying the Irish who were coming into the country in large numbers at that time, some German as well, and they were paying them next to nothing. And then these people would have to take that pittance and try to pay for food, try to pay for clothing, try to pay for housing, try to pay for medical, and they lived in squalid conditions because of it. So these plantation owners were saying, my God, that is far cheaper than the system that we have. And so if things had been allowed to just run their course, slavery would have been an economic disaster, and it would have been given up if for no other reason. If there wouldn't, which there was a moral objection to it, if for no other reason it would have come to an end, because it was just far cheaper to employ than it was to keep as slave. And that may or may not be true. Study economics to find out whether or not that's true. So thank you very much. I'm Arian. Also, we see Amma Arian super chatting again, $5, writing that manifest destiny was used to justify the mistreatment of individuals. I guess that the question is, for your son or daughter, is that true on a test? Is that what it is? Reach out to me so I can make sure we get to the bottom of it. But of course, in the everything is going to be twisted to comport with and confirm the anti-white narrative. So whatever it's going to be, ladies and gentlemen, I had a very high GPA at university. And I'll just leave it at that. The way that I did that was not just by knowing the material that we covered, but by knowing what the anti-white pigs at the front of the classroom wanted to hear. Just give them what they want to hear to get what you want, and then get the hell out. If you need to pass this test to get the GED, give them what they want. Make sure your son or daughter knows the truth, and then move on. Fool them, trick them as much as they've been lying and tricking us. Lying to and tricking us. Dispatcher, super chatting on YouTube, $2. If race mixing is legal, then race making is too. Ah, yes. Interesting point. Making a new race, right. Thank you very much for the comment and the super chat, Dispatcher. Mrs. Horst, great to see you again. $9.99. Not writing anything, but you are a wonderful member of our community. It's always a joy to see you here. Thank you. Bigot Smalls, $1.99. Hail victory, supreme in our homelands. Thank you very much, Bigot Smalls, for that kind contribution to White Wellbeing. Brant Danger. Okay, that was the question that we had from earlier. Thank you very much. I think that's all. I'll check over here for the rest of the YouTube super chats to make sure I didn't miss any. Coconut is saying she's got to go for now. Love you all. Thank you for being with us. You're a wonderful person. Beautiful person. Thank you for being a member of this community. DL just super chatted on Entropy, $5. You go very in depth into these issues, but it can really be summed up into three things: extracting resources from populations, dominating them, I think you meant through various means, and eliminating any competition. Thank you for the super chat and your summation of what I'm sharing with the community. I appreciate that, DL. Thank you for being here. We just had Dale Jones, super chat, $2. Didn't write anything, but thank you very much for the kind super chat. Arian, $3 super chatting over here on Entropy. There's a two-part super chat to be read as one. Thank you for the clarification and the $3. So, recently started to homeschool the daughter. Curious about the GED test question. The history question was about manifest destiny. The question was, which statement provides evidence that manifest destiny was used to justify the mistreatment of individuals? I see. So the presupposition is that it was used to mistreat. Did I speak with you before, Emma Arian, about a younger child? As well. Thank you very much for the kind super chat, by the way. You don't have to super chat again to clarify. Tag me, and I will do my best to catch your statement. But let's do all that we can to protect your child. I'm going to, and the second edition of Go Free is going to be available this month. And moms and dads out there, you absolutely, if there are moms and dads out there that are already using it, share it with the other mothers and fathers, the success that they are having with their children in the live chat. It is a miraculous thing watching or learning about these children coming around and looking to mom and dad now as saviors, as gods. They know what's going to happen before it happens. Whereas before, it was mom and dad are part of this evil people, and everyone older than us and who's white is responsible. And so we've got to make amends as the young white people now and destroy everything that mom and dad is. That's not what you want in your household. Some of you are going through that right now, and I feel for you. Tree of Wisdom. What's your opinion on balkanization in the U.S.? Will it become a variable platform when Texas turns purple in 2024? I heard conservative donors will use money to advertise in Texas in 2020 for once. I heard conservative donors will use money to advertise. Well, the question is balkanization, my opinion of balkanization. I guess are you asking me, do I approve of it? Do I expect it to happen? I do not expect it to happen. It sounds like that's what you're asking me. The anti-whites are not going to break up what they dominate. If anything, they want to centralize it increasingly so. They would like for there to be, and this may or may not be true, an North American Union to make it easier to control these things. This may or may not be true. Look it up on your own. And look into it. And so I don't expect there to be balkanization. I expect that, at least not yet, I expect that the anti-whites will continue to, how can I say, they'll continue to manage the deterioration of Western civilization in a way that they've been managing it. I mean, do you think today that we are as civilized as we were 50 years ago? And 50 years ago, were they as civilized as 50 years earlier? And don't look to the extremes to find fault with that statement, because that would just be intellectually dishonest. You all know what I'm getting at. We are becoming increasingly like third world countries, and in corruption, in violence, in the lack of law, in ethical corruption, legal corruption, administrative corruption, etc. We are reflecting increasingly those environments. And so the anti-whites will continue to manage this as long as they can, because what they don't want, what they can't have, is the broad many millions of working class white men and women across the West saying enough is enough. We're going to rescind our authority and allegiance from these institutions, and we're instead going to invest it in these other vehicles. Because the moment that happens is the moment that it all crumbles for the anti-whites. We are going to have lurches toward a slow movement toward, and then occasional lurches toward what could be erroneously concluded to be on the verge of balkanization, and people are going to use these sorts of things to make themselves money. They're going to use these sorts of events to get themselves in office. They're going to use these sorts of events to get you all frightened and worried more about digging a hole in the ground to hide, as though something's going to get better. Let me just ask you all, everybody who's contemplated, and if you know somebody who really likes this idea of being a craven, of let's dig a hole in the ground, what's going to get better? How long are you going to live in the hole in the ground? I mean, how much of a coward can you be? How much of a do-nothing loser can you be? You're just going to go dig a hole in the ground and then wait for what? Jason to make things better? And then you're going to come out, oh, I made the right choice. I dug a hole in the ground and I just waited until Jason made everything better. And now I can come out of my hole in the ground. You're not going to have enough food and water to live in a hole in the ground forever. Anybody telling you to dig a hole in the ground or to go to build the redoubt somewhere is either foolish, or themselves, they've lost it, or they've given up on life, or they are intentionally trying to mislead you. None of it is coming from a sound place. Because for God's sake, it doesn't take any intelligence to just say, even if you have 10 years of food, 10 years isn't going to be enough. Somebody's going to have to make civilization better again. Somebody's going to have to make your environment better again. Somebody's going to have to make sure that the grocery store has food again so that you can crawl out of your hole. So this is just, if that's you, then you need to stop thinking this way. There's nothing wrong with prepping. I'm totally for prepping. And we have planned in the past, and we do plan on doing a show on the sensible prepping. You need to sensibly prep. One of the main things, of course, you have to have is, I don't even know if I can say, you all know what it is. It's not water. It's not food. It's not gold. It's not silver. It's something that can be loud, or a suppressor can make it quiet. You need that, and you need the things that come out of it, because if you have all of the rest and you don't have these things, then you will lose all of it to someone who will take it from you, who has those tools. Thank you very much for that question. Samantha Fox, hey, Jason, my flu turned into pneumonia, but even in the hospital, I'm listening to you and watching the chat, and I feel like I'm at home with my NWG family. Samantha Fox, what a hero she is. She has pneumonia and is in the hospital, and she is with us on the Going Free stream. What an absolute perfection of a participant, example for the community. To have pneumonia, to be in the hospital, and still be here with us. If it were not for Samantha Fox, ladies and gentlemen, I would not have known that there was this leaflet drop. No one else reached out to me. She reached out to me and told me about it appearing. Told me about Red Ice, talking about the leaflet drop, particularly because their website was included as one of the websites. So, God, my best wishes and positive energy go out to you, Samantha. I hope you heal rapidly. You can't fool around with the flu. You don't want to get out of the hospital too soon, because then you'll end up with walking flu. But thank you for being here with us. God bless you. What a hero. I mean, this is a real woman, ladies and gentlemen. When you are in the hospital with flu and you're still tuning in to be a part of this mission, of this heroic cause. How many men do we know? I'm going to shame the men for a minute. How many men are not man enough? They get a sniffle and they can't come out to a meeting. They can't tune in. They can't participate in any way. And here we have a woman in the hospital with pneumonia, and she's participating. Don't be a male and not be a man around me, guys. Thank you very much, Samantha. Simon says the Nationalist Conference in the UK yesterday was a huge success. Mark Collette launched Patriotic Alternative, a new push to be more active for our cause in the UK. Videos will be uploaded soon. That is fantastic news. Thank you very much, Simon, for letting us know exactly what took place there. Mark has been submitted an application to the Electoral Commission for Patriotic Alternative. Well, so I guess they need some sort of permission to have this official from the government to get the official stamp from the anti-whites, I guess. That's great news. And then he has over here on the entropy. Could I ask Seaver, are you still with us? Yeah, I see you. Could I ask you, I see Underhill is here. Great to see you, brother. Another great person in this community. Wonderful to have you here, sir. Thank you very much. Could you please, Seaver, jump on over to Entropy, grab the link to that Simon dropped for Mark's new movement, and then drop that in the live chat for me. I would do it right now, but I have, the moment I click on another thing, all will go wrong. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And Simon, thank you for sharing that great news. Very proud of Mark and all of the good work that my brothers and sisters are doing over there in the cause for white well-being. Tree of Wisdom, I personally vomited. And okay, so this is talking to earlier. We were saying that I had spoken with a woman who had said that as she started going free and the reality of what was going on in the world really began to sink into her, she had a couple days of vomiting. That this is not the first time. She's definitely not the only one who has experienced this. Tree of Wisdom writes, I personally vomited and cried after watching a particular video I can't say the name of, and imagining something like that happening to my 12-year-old adopted white daughter. That's absolutely, I completely sympathize with that. It is the truth is so far from this anti-white narrative that it is dizzying for people to come to it and to really begin to see. I mean, there's actually someone in the chat right now who, when first looking at himself and asked, when you're going free, when you're looking, when you're reading Go Free, and as I say, second edition will be available soon. So just if you don't have it, hold out. When you begin going free with the book, you're asked to identify the MPs, meme pathogens that are in you. An MP is a precept like diversity is our strength, something that you were infected with, a notion that you were infected with. And by the way, as an aside, I'll mention something about that in a second. And it is connected to a structural interpretive mandate, a SIM. So an MP is an anti-white precept like diversity is our strength. Then a SIM, structural interpretive mandate, is associated with it. And this is what you are supposed to think about the MP, what you are supposed to think about the MP itself, that it's a great thing in this case, what you are supposed to think about the people who hold the MP, who say the MP, who believe in it, that they're all wonderful, beautiful, etc. And that what you're supposed to think about all of those who disagree with it, that you're supposed to feel hatred for them because they're ugly, they're stupid, they're backward, they want to cause harm, etc. When you first look into yourself for MPs, you'll only find a couple. But the further you go free, the more you will find. And it is sickening. So this individual, I can't remember the exact number, had a handful or just over a handful or a dozen maybe at first, and then came back with I don't know, 30 or something like this. I mean, this is not uncommon. Had a woman who thought for sure she only had, I can't remember the exact number, 4 or 5 or 6 MPs. These are the only MPs that I have. And then after a couple of months of going free, it was damn near 100 that she shared with me. An enormous list. These are infections in your brain that do not go away. We can't delete them. So I teach you how to deal with them. And it's very effective how to deal with them. But they are at all times undermining your potential. So let's see how we have else here. Sifu writes, Jason, there is a significant audiovisual delay on D Live. Can you take a look? Thanks. Well. I wonder how to remedy that. Do you mean, Sifu, could you tag me in the live chat on either of the YouTubes and let me know, are they unsynced or is it just delayed relative to the broadcast on YouTube? Because that would be something important for me to know. Now, let's see what else we have here. Looks like we have some more super chats that came in. over on the familiar alternative. Ladies and gentlemen, huge round of applause, raucous emojis for the great Quebec, who has just invested $200 in the cause of white well-being. 200. We always do things the white way here. Dollars for white well-being. Thank you, Quebec. My deep and abiding thanks and debt goes to you and the good that you do for our community with these kind and princely investments in our cause. We will do great things with that money. Thank you, good sir. Thank you, my friend. Sifu says, meaning the audio is out of sync. Okay, I'll have to look into why that is the case after the show. I won't be able to fix that right now because we'll be wrapping up soon. I want to make sure I want to get everybody's final comments, certainly everybody's final. We're at 3.5 hours. So we've almost pulled off a Poseidon today, ladies and gentlemen. We're not going to go that long, but we almost pulled off a Poseidon. 4.5 hours last night, I believe. Oh boy. Who likes coffee that's supposed to be hot? So not cold coffee, but coffee that's supposed to be hot that's cold. That's pretty gross. Thank you very much, Quebec. That is splendid. Brant Danger super chatted $25. Jason, I just want to say you are a badass and we stand with you. I want you to know I am a teacher and I do not teach the anti-white narrative to my students. God bless you, brother. God bless you. That is fantastic. I can't thank you enough for your good words, your kind investment, those kind sentiments, and most importantly, your treatment of the children coming through your class. I look forward to the day that I can shake your hand, all men and women who teach our children, who keep from them this venom that destroys their lives. You are saving lives. You are preventing infections that would have taken root had you not been there, that who knows what they would have become in those white children's lives. God bless you. You have no idea. Contemplate on that, ladies and gentlemen. When we have our interactions with young white people, contemplate on the kind of influence we can have, the kind of influence we can have on their lives. If you keep them, if you inoculate them, which is another part of Go Free, and the whole process of going free, if you inoculate the children against anti-whiteism, when it presents itself, it strengthens their resolve. This is something that I have been arguing for years. For years. All of these folks wanting to give more literature, more facts, more anecdotes, more tales about this or that period in history, more information on the leaflets. And I said, we are only in front of their eyes for this fast. And then they go back to the televisions, they go back to the newspapers, they go back to the movies, they go back to the anti-whites. We need to teach them in a way that enables them to see everything the anti-whites are doing. And then once we have taught them how to see, the anti-whites do the job of waking them up for us. That is the 200 plus IQ method for recapturing our destiny. Our megahorn is never going to be loud enough. Our radio tower will never be tall enough. Our YouTube reach is never going to reach out far enough. These people are going to be enmeshed, drowning in anti-whiteism everywhere they go in their lives. If we teach them how to see it, if we inoculate them against anti-whiteism, then everything the anti-whites do help them to go free. That, ladies and gentlemen, is outwitting the anti-whites. And here's what I want to get to. I want to get to that comment specifically that I was mentioning earlier. And we'll take the last statements. We'll mention the last super chats. I see new people subscribing to the channels. Thank you very much for that. I want to get to this because it's really important that we quit with this needless quibbling. I've been respectful of my of the seniors in this field. I've been respectful of my peers. I've been respectful of my juniors, and now we're getting into a phase where it's time to say enough is enough. This is the process that works, and get on board. So let's see if I can find what I wrote. Okay. I want to see what part of this I want to share. This is my pinned comment on my salute on the last Going Free. At the very end, I say, I know this is difficult to understand, which is why when something works. Listen closely to this, people. We're about to wrap up. I know this is very difficult to understand, which is why when something works, we as a people should get behind it and push it, like certain other successful groups of people, rather than undermining our progress with contradictory opinions. There is simply far too much of, quote, I don't think your demonstrably success-producing approach will work in our circles. I don't think. I am sick of hearing this. I am sick of it. In fact, there's one group of people that a certain percentage of folks in our community like to talk about endlessly, because they put too much focus on that group, not enough focus on us. And that group never says to each other, they never say that you're demonstrably successful, success-producing ideas, I disagree that it's going to work. They never say anything that asinine. And yet, I hear this all the time. Jason, your demonstrably success-producing ideas I don't think will work. Well, then go to hell. We are well beyond this. I think this other idea that's never been tried, that is logically asinine and backwards, or I think this other idea that has been tried and has failed time and again, I think this idea is better than the one that you're employing and is demonstrably successful. We need to be a lot more like that other group, that when they see something that works, they are for some reason are able to see it. They see something working for the interests of their group, for the well-being of their group, and then suddenly their pocketbooks open. Suddenly they say, well, I'm a writer, I will write for that cause. Well, I'm a movie producer, I will produce for that cause. Well, I'm an artist, I will build a statue for that cause. Well, I'm a thinker, I will add some thoughts to that cause. Well, I'm an organizer, I will organize for that cause. That's what they do. What do we hear? What do I hear far too often? And I'm getting sick of it. Is this, yes, your success-producing, demonstrably success-producing ideas are what they are, but I don't think they're going to work. I just don't think these success-producing, demonstrably success-producing ideas are going to work. Then waddle back off to your treehouse with the other losers and contemplate your ideas that have always proven to fail, or the ideas that are just logically stupid. This is an area that we really have to improve in. I always adopt what works for white well-being. I always appropriate what works for white well-being. There is no shame in doing what works for white well-being. The only shame is having an ego bigger than our cause. The only shame is having an ego more important to you than our cause, than our well-being, than service to our people. That's the only shame. When something works, and this stuff is working for person after person, how many people do you have to hear about saying, not just because they got together at some they met at a meetup or a rally or something, but because of a doctrine, they're having babies. How many doctrines out there are taking people that are saying, I was on the path to suicide and no longer? How many other doctrines are having these messages flow in like Niagara Falls, like the Mississippi River flowing in with this has been life-changing? I've been able to convert people in my life that I could never touch before. How many others are doing that? Zero. Adopt what works. If you're out there and you're continuing to say your success, demonstrably success producing ideas are not going to work, then you just need to go to hell. Don't have any more conversations with me. Go off and do your own thing in your tree house or whatever it is, and piddle your time away. You're of no value, because that community that kicks ass, that community out there that kicks ass with as small a number as they are, their members are bright enough to see what works, and then they sublimate their selfish desires into a form that serves the success producing idea and therefore enriches themselves. And not just enrich financially, but enrich themselves in other ways as well. That's why they're so successful. Not because they're going to squabble over, well, I don't like that your idea just doesn't really feel so good to me. I like all of it, but this one little bit over here. And because this one little bit, forget it. So there simply is too much of, I don't think your demonstrably success-producing approach will work in our circles. So enough of hearing that. I've said enough on it. And if you're one of those people, then you know what you are. It's time to set your ego aside and get on board for what's working. And if you have a better idea and it's producing success and it works better than what we're doing, guess what? We're going to incorporate it. Because here, ego is not what's important. I don't have to be alive another day. What matters here is the well-being of our people. And until we start getting to a point like that, we're not going to win. I need other men out there to follow me into glory, to be by my side in glory, to beat me there to glory. That's what I need. Beat me to glory. Be faster to glory than me. Be larger in glory than I am. Do it all better than I do it. I need other men to come with me to glory. And we need women as well. Dig Two Graves just said no white guilt, exclamation points. Ryan Manley, I support Jason from the beginning. Thank you, brother. Sonia says, amen, Jason. Olivia says, and women follow. Absolutely. I tell you what, there's going to be that day. And today, glory, as we talked about before, and a great many of you, God bless you for reaching out to me. And now, echoing what I'm saying about the heart, the kernel of what it means to be a man is that drive for glory. A great many of you instantly recognized this and adopted it. So let me just for a brief moment shine a spotlight on those. I was just shining a spotlight on those who put their egos before our people. Let me shine a spotlight on all of you out there who instantly wrote me and said, my God, that is the core of masculinity. That is the core of what it means to be a man, is the drive for glory. Rather than a focus on what may or may not be a part of glory, which is death. I mean, think about that for a minute. I don't know if I mentioned it in the stream when I was talking about it, but what is the ultimate way to be a man if you believed that, being a man, the ultimate duty of being a man was this romance with death or what have you, however poetically people put it, then the best action for you to take, if that's what it is, if it's death, if it's a romance with death, if it's a going out and fighting and dying, then the average person the average man is going to come to the conclusion that the best moment to act is when it's too late. And then I will go out in a blaze of glory. Then I'm a real man. Piss on that. You're no hero if you wait around until there's no hope of success so that you can selfishly say that you're being a man by going out where death and failure is certain. You are a loser. That's what you are. If you fight today, this is information warfare. If you fight today and you get the message out today, it doesn't matter if you die at 25 looking beautiful as a corpse, or you die at 85 and from something that a woman has right now, pneumonia, and who is still participating, you still die a glorious death. If you have given your life to White Wellbeing, it doesn't matter how you die, you have died a glorious death. Forget this waiting until some battle, surely you all can see, and so many of you did when I talked about this, that could only lead to bad decisions for our people. Not the least of which, by the way, is to lead some poor, insecure, young white male who sees no future for himself. Everywhere around him, the women are not giving him attention. Everywhere around him, the institutions are set to aid the non-whites to do better and better at his expense. Everywhere around him, he has to pretend that the reverse is true, that somehow he's riding high. He's the evil guy in this narrative. All of this horror for him. And then he's going to go learn that the only way to be a real white man is to have this fixation with death. What might he end up doing? What choice might he end up making? Is that where we want to lead our young men? You are not being a hero today if you do commit some atrocity. You don't have a glorious death. You have a dog's death. If you go now with some kind of weapons or something and you think you're going to go harm's way, first of all, you're not getting at the people. You're not getting at the anti-whites, and you're not going to get anywhere close to them, who are the power holders. All of these losers have gone out and just and found innocent people that they can harm. You're not dying no glorious death. You're dying a dog's death. You won't be remembered as a hero. You'll be hated for the censorship that was exacerbated by your acts. No romance with death. You want to die a glorious death? You want to be a real man? You go pass out 1,000 leaflets tonight. You go post on 100 message boards tonight. You stand with me when we hold our symposiums, when we hold our conferences. And you stand out there shoulder to shoulder with me. That is how you'll die a glorious death. Not in some ridiculous, fictionalized battle where you wait until it's too late, but by doing the hard work. I know work is hard and everybody wants a way out. And sometimes this idea of, well, I'm just going to wait until I can have a death in battle, that's just an excuse to get out of work. All right, so let's see what else we have here. Let me make sure we haven't missed anything. And we will be wrapping up. I'll get the final comments, ladies and gentlemen. If you all have any more comments, tag me. You can tag me as Gardening with NWG or No White Guilt. And I will answer your question or speak to your comment. Of course, all of the modes of, I see nothing more has taken place over here on entropy. I don't believe that I've missed any on entropy as I scroll through. If I did miss your comment on entropy, if you think I did, tag me, we'll have a look and make sure that I did not. But we're having a great going free. It's been fabulous to be with you all today. This is a great boon for all of us, for all of our people, because we are taking away lessons from here that we can spread to all of our circles. Rick says, Jason, print currency and we will use it. Well, we'll speak in the currency of white well-being. But if we start printing currency, that's exactly what the regime will do. Rick, is that it? Was that the question you wanted me to read? That was absolutely purely by chance, or by some force of nature beyond me, that I read your statement before I saw you asking me to read your statement. That's not the first time that something curious has happened. Please do a review of Joker when it comes out. 577 All Well asks, suspect there are many MPs in there, but I am stoked to see it. Yeah, well, maybe I will do a review. Maybe I'll go watch it and I'll pull out the MPs and I will show you all how actually deep it is. Ehrlich asks, what about discipline and determination? That we need, absolutely. We need discipline and determination. Never surrender. We never give up. Well said. Okay, looks like those are caught up. Let me make sure we are caught up on these other platforms, and we will be getting out of here in just a moment. It's been wonderful being with you all today, as is always the case. It is always a joy to be with my family, and you all are my family. And I want you to realize this. I was telling this to a member of the community just the other day. There's Gabriella is here. No white guilt. Jason for president. Thank you so much, fair lady. It's great to see you. I tried to mention you all. I was saying to a member of the community the other day. She said, you won't know these people. She was telling me about someone, and she said, you won't know these people yet. These are people in the white positive sphere, or maybe they were sort of on the periphery. So not quite yet, but getting there. And I told her, and I want you all to hear this, because I want this to be true for all of us. I said, no, I already know them. They're all my family. Western kind is my family. I just have yet to shake their hands and learn their names. And that's how I feel about all of you. You're all my family. I love you all. We just have yet to shake hands, to hug each other, and for me to say your real names. And those are small things in the grand scheme. Because we can reach across what has been created for us, this chasm that's artificial within our people, these disagreements over ancient battles, battle lines, country lines, economic structures, all of this. We can reach across these chasms and embrace each other for who and what we are, which is Westmen. Men of the West, women of the West, Western kind. That is our true bond and connection. And it transcends all country boundaries, all flags, all languages, all hues of cultural difference, all hues of hair and skin and eye color that we have in our race. It transcends all of that. And you can feel it when you dig down inside of you. And it is a great wealth of power. We call each of you in Going Free, we say that you have a PTP, a potential to power. And that PTP right now, if you're not going free, or even if you have started going free, it is nowhere nearly what it can be as you continue to go free, or if you start going free. And that's what we're working on. That is what we are rebuilding. So let's see. Final look at these platforms to make sure I didn't miss anybody's statements or questions or super chats. Looks like we had over on Ko-fi, Jenny super chatted with $3. Thank you so much, Jenny. Great information tonight. Thanks. Well, thank you for being here and being a member of our rapidly growing community. I can never be more excited than I am with you all. I want you all to go forward after this broadcast. I want you to do something wonderful today or tonight, the first chance you get for White Wellbeing. I want you to say something positive, do something strong for our people, whatever it might be, big or small, something strong nonetheless. And don't confuse a small act for a weak act. Those are two different things. It can be a big or small act. Just make it a strong one. Put intent and purpose behind it. There are many beliefs out there in the world about intent and purpose. But one thing is absolutely true, that if you have willpower, if you will not be stopped, if you have great determination, like one of our members of our community just wrote, if you will not be stopped, we will recapture our destiny. That is the message of tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Let me make sure, see if there's anything left. Raymond says, my wife keeps sending you super chats. Now we can't buy It's a Comedy, damn it. I'm sorry. Tell her to stop. Just kidding. That's funny, Raymond. Thank you very much. Tree of Wisdom. Poseidon spent 4 hours showing us why positive, funny memes. He does a fabulous job. He's a great guy, and it is a great honor to be able to serve White Wellbeing with him. Brant Dangers says, I am taking the glorious pill right now. Amen to that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we are not going to be missing anybody's final statements here. I don't see any more tags or any more on either channels, and I don't see any more statements. I see one more thing, and no, it looks like we are good. Well, it has been fabulous. Kaiser's here. Great to see you, Kaiser. Kaiser says it is our responsibility to grab fast the reins of destiny. Amen to that. Very well said. Heidi says, I will not stop. I trust you and what you do with the donations. Amen, Heidi. Thank you very much. You two are the best. All right. Tree of Wisdom's asking for the next guest. Well, I will be back on Wednesday, although maybe I will be back before Wednesday. Of course, I will be back on Wednesday with Mark Collette on Patriotic Weekly Review. And I'm not quite sure who our guest is just yet, but it's going to be a wonderful show. It'll be very entertaining. I won't be shirtless and wearing a leather jacket, but that's the only positive thing I can, or the only certain thing I can tell you about the coming show. I will have a shirt on and I won't be wearing a leather jacket. I may do a premiere on my channel, or it'll be broadcast on all of the channels. Maybe Tuesday, we'll see. It depends. And then, of course, Thursday or so, we will be back with Tap, the great Jared George, and myself. And I will let you know who the guest is going to be there, probably on Wednesday. So it has been absolute joy tonight. We covered a lot of things. And the final thought of the main point tonight that I want to leave with you all. Tree of Wisdom says, no leather, at least a spoon, please. Well, maybe perhaps something to remember Sticks, Hex, and Hammer's appearance on Mark's show. We will have a spoon present. And Mark might still have his spoon at his desk. Who knows? But the final thing is the main point of this Going Free today is that it doesn't matter what's going on in the real world. It doesn't matter if more people care about white well-being today than yesterday. Fewer people can care about white well-being today than yesterday. And the anti-white narrative will still state that white supremacy is on the rise. The anti-white narrative will still state that the white race is preventing women and non-whites from climbing up into the highest echelon of companies, even if there is a record and growing number of non-whites and women in those positions. It is a storyline. Your arguments, your facts, your data doesn't mean a goddamn thing. It is a story that has an author who has horns. And you as a character will never guide the pen for that author. He will write you into the worst scenarios. He will write you in as the ugliest character. He will write you in as the most monstrous monster. Our only choice is to get off of his book and into ours. And as I said before, those first pages, that title and those first pages are going to be written in our blood, the wounds still bleeding from the anti-whites. But we will write into the end of that story a destiny so bright, a glory so magnificent that we can only shudder at trying to imagine it today. Let's go free.